Although he had 8 wealthy older sisters, little Shaun King had to wander everywhere. When tired, he slept under bridges, and when hungry, he fought with stray dogs for food. All this was because, when he was just born, little Shaun King was swapped and abandoned in a junkyard. Fortunately, Grandpa Joe, the old junk collector, took him in and raised him. From then on, he treated little Shaun King as his own grandson. Whenever he had delicious food, he would give it to little Shaun King. Any toys he found, he would also give to the boy. Despite living in a dilapidated house and eating simple meals of vegetables and rice, life was still filled with warmth. Tragically, a year ago, Grandpa Joe passed away from liver cancer. Little Shaun King should have been sent to an orphanage, but because he wanted to find his biological parents, little Shaun King secretly ran away and wandered the streets. At this moment, he happened to pass by KFC. Through the glass, little Shaun King saw a little girl happily eating a chicken drumstick, her mouth greasy. Beside her, the girl's mother was tenderly feeding her. Unconsciously, saliva dripped from the corner of little Shaun King's mouth. Ouch! Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out. Brenda, an obese woman, pushed little Shaun King to the ground. The 2 steamed buns a kind person had given him also rolled onto the ground. Clearly, she was unharmed, but Brenda berated him. "You little brat, what are you standing there dazed for?" The loud scolding attracted the attention of the surrounding people. They pointed at little Shaun King and whispered, "Already learned to play the victim at such a young age. No wonder his parents abandoned him." Exactly. Hearing this, little Shaun King looked aggrievedly at the people around him, then at Brenda, who was several times his size. He silently picked up the 2 dust-covered steamed buns and fled from the crowd. Little Shaun King quickly ran back to the underpass where he took shelter, tears streaming down like rain. "I'm a child no one wants. Others have parents, but my parents don't want me. No one cares about me. They all bully me." Little Shaun King curled up, trembling uncontrollably, not even daring to cry loudly. After a long while, little Shaun King finally emerged from his sorrow, but then he discovered something unusual. "Where's my pendant?" He hurriedly felt his collar, but it was empty. Grandpa Joe had once told him that it was the only thing his parents had left for him. If they saw the pendant, they would find him. "I've lost the pendant. I'll never find my parents now." Thinking this, little Shaun King couldn't hold back anymore and burst into sobs. He cried himself unconscious, unaware that at the same time, the outside world was in an uproar because of his pendant. Little Shaun King's pendant had fallen when Brenda pushed him, and it was she who had picked it up. Brenda took the pendant to a gold shop and sold it for 30,000 yuan. Just as she was secretly rejoicing over her luck, another woman coincidentally saw it. She immediately recognized it as the imperial blue jade pendant, worth billions, belonging to the King family, the top prestigious family in Magic City. 6 years ago, the King family had bought this blue jade to give to their youngest son, who was about to be born. But unexpectedly, the baby boy disappeared mysteriously right after birth, and the pendant vanished with him. Now, seeing the familiar pendant, the woman was incredibly moved. She immediately grabbed Brenda and asked about its origin. The obese woman struggled, but couldn't break free, panically asking, "Who are you? Why are you meddling in my business?" The woman coldly replied, "I am Stacy King, the 7th daughter of the King family in Magic City. Tell me, how did my younger brother's pendant end up with you?" Hearing this, Brenda was so frightened she slumped to the ground and hastily recounted the incident in detail. After listening, Stacy King's expression grew even colder. She immediately ordered her assistant, "Lily, make this woman disappear. How dare she bully my younger brother?" No matter how Brenda knelt and begged, it was futile. 2 bodyguards dragged her away like a dead dog. Then, Stacy King continued to give orders. "All group employees, immediately search the North District for a child about 6 years old. Contact the authorities to check the city-wide security cameras." "Yes, miss." Lily hurried off to relay the orders. Instantly, on the streets, in residential complexes, and in parks, groups of people were searching for something. Police cars sped down the roads, and missing person flyers were posted all over the city. Providing a clue rewards 20,000 yuan. The first person to find him rewards 200,000 yuan. Countless people couldn't restrain themselves and excitedly began searching according to the clues on the flyers, almost combing through every nook and cranny. Meanwhile, little Shaun King didn't know how long he had slept. Suddenly, he felt his face was wet. He quickly opened his eyes to see a small white dog licking his face. Beside it lay a larger dog, motionless, apparently dead. Little Shaun King recognized the large dog. Although it had snatched food from him before, it had never harmed him. Seeing little Shaun King wake up, the puppy retreated beside the large dog and whimpered a few times. Little Shaun King understood. This puppy was the large dog's child, and the large dog wanted to entrust its child to him. He suddenly felt moved, stepped forward, and petted the puppy. "You probably don't have parents anymore either. We're so alike." The puppy wasn't afraid of little Shaun King. Instead, it rubbed against his palm. Little Shaun King picked it up. "From now on, we're good friends. If I have food, I won't let you go hungry. Since your fur is white, I'll call you Blackie, okay?" Blackie seemed to understand little Shaun King's words, sticking out its tongue and licking his grubby face. "Ha, that tickles." Little Shaun King laughed happily. Just then, two military personnel approached. Little Shaun King instinctively wanted to hide in a corner, saying fearfully, "Sirs, I haven't done anything wrong. Don't take me." Seeing Little Shaun King, they were also surprised and quickly took out their phones to compare. After confirming, one of them took out his phone to report. A moment later, a group of military personnel gathered towards Little Shaun King. Police cars approached, dispersing the crowd and vehicles. All traffic lights in the area turned red. Police pulled up barricade tape, quickly sealing off the intersection. Little Shaun King was terrified. Just as he was about to cry, the roar of sports cars was heard. Several Cullinans and a Maserati lined up and sped in. Two military personnel stepped forward, opened a car door, and respectfully called out, "Miss King." From the Cullinans behind, a group of bodyguards in black, exuding an imposing aura, also alighted. Little Shaun King curiously looked towards the open car door, his heart pounding. The woman who stepped out walked towards Little Shaun King, her eyes filled with tenderness and heartache. The younger brother her whole family had searched for so many years was finally found today. Seeing him so thin and pitiful, covered in dirt, Stacy King felt as if something had pierced her heart, her nose tingling. "Little Shaun, come to Big Sister." Stacy King squatted down, trying to smile, but her beautiful eyes were already brimming with tears. I don't have a sister. I don't know you. You got the wrong person, sorry." Little Shaun King was a little scared and took a step back. Little Shaun King truly didn't know this sister. She was so rich and beautiful. She would surely despise him. "I am your real sister. Your name is Shaun King. 5 years ago, you were swapped at the hospital. By the time we found out, it was too late. This pendant was a special gift our parents had made for you." Stacy King took out the pendant and put it around Little Shaun King's neck. "You have 7 other older sisters like me." Little Shaun King was so surprised he was speechless. He never expected this day to come so quickly. Looking at her gentle eyes, Little Shaun King believed her. Although he was dirty, Stacy King didn't despise him at all. Instead, she hugged him into the luxurious Maserati. The grand convoy headed toward a nearby clothing store. In the car, Little Shaun King held Blackie, feeling like he was on pins and needles. Meeting his older sister for the first time, Little Shaun King was a bit awkward. Though he was very happy, he didn't know how to start a conversation. "Can you tell me about your life before?" Little Shaun King began to recount his experiences, as if a floodgate had opened. He also let go of his wariness. Hearing his story, Stacy King felt her nose tingle again. He was only 5 years and 9 months old. At an age when others were carefreely enjoying their childhood, he had understood so much and endured so much hardship. Regaining her composure, the car had also stopped by the roadside. A shop assistant quickly approached, looking respectfully at Stacy King. "Find some children's clothes for my younger brother." The shop assistant looked at Little Shaun King with a strange expression. The boy was dirty, his clothes tattered. He didn't look like the brother of this wealthy customer at all. "What are you looking at? Don't you want to work anymore?" Stacy King's voice was a bit cold. She hated this sales assistant's attitude of judging by appearances. "Get someone else for me." The other sales assistants stood there dumbfounded. By the time she reacted, she had been left behind. Another young female sales assistant led Stacy King. The group went to the children's clothing section. The girl was about to introduce which clothes were trendy when Stacy King cut her off. "This set, that set, and that whole rack over there. Wrap them all up for me." "Big sister, Little Shaun." King tugged at Stacy King's clothes. "I can't wear so many clothes. One set is enough." Stacy King affectionately rubbed Little Shaun King's head, comforting him. "Sister has a lot of money. You don't need to save for me." After speaking, she looked at Blackie in Little Shaun King's arms and smiled. This little guy should also be dressed up a bit. The sales assistant quickly finished packing. "Miss, 20 sets of clothes, a total of 32,730 yuan. Swipe the card." Stacy King casually handed her gold card to the assistant. The other sales assistant gritted her teeth in envy. After buying clothes, the group took Little Shaun King to a bathhouse. Stacy King instructed a few bodyguards to take him for a hot bath and a neat haircut. When Little Shaun King appeared before Stacy King again, he was completely transformed. His skin was fair, his small face exuded a milky fragrance, and coupled with the adorable clothes, he was truly enough to make one's heart melt. Stacy King pulled him over for a few photos together, then posted them in the sisters' group chat. Immediately, the other 7 sisters started vying for him. After introducing each sister to Little Shaun King, Stacy King took him out to eat. At this moment, Lily, the assistant, walked in holding Blackie, who had been bathed and vaccinated. As soon as Blackie saw Little Shaun King, it ran to his feet, making him laugh heartily. Seeing Little Shaun King happy, Stacy King finally felt relieved. After passing a few streets, the car stopped in front of the Celestial Palace restaurant. As soon as they entered the restaurant, a waitress came to greet them. "I want a private room on the 3rd floor, Stacy King said immediately. The waitress apologized. "I'm sorry, miss. All the rooms on the 3rd floor have been booked." Stacy King frowned slightly. "Then give me a room on the 2nd floor." The waitress still replied. "I'm sorry, miss. The 2nd floor has also been fully booked." Stacy King felt annoyed. One floor had more than 10 private rooms. How could they all be booked? She didn't want her younger brother to eat in the main hall. The King family still had a reputation to maintain. Get your manager out here. My patience is limited. Stacy King's voice was a bit cold. Seeing that this customer was difficult, a waitress hurriedly went to find the restaurant manager. Not long after, a middle-aged man with a shiny face walked over. So it's Miss King. It seems the Great Flood has swept away the Dragon King's temple. What happened just now? The restaurant manager initiated the conversation. Seeing who it was, his heart pounded. Stacy King, the seventh daughter of the King family in Magic City, head of the King Corporation. Who would dare to offend her? The waitress recounted the incident again. After listening, the restaurant manager slammed the table and shouted, "Insolent! How dare you obstruct our esteemed guest? If you don't want to work anymore, get lost, and hurry up and open a private room." The waitress hurriedly apologized and arranged for them to enter a VIP room. However, just as they were ordering, the door to the private room was pushed open, and a group of people walked in. Why is there someone here? Hasn't Lewis booked this entire floor? A few middle-aged men and women looked displeased. What's going on? Another middle-aged man walked into the room. Hello, I've booked the entire third floor. Please go downstairs to eat. Lewis Liu spoke first, his tone brooking no argument. Stacy King didn't look up and replied nonchalantly, "This is a VIP room. It has nothing to do with you." Lewis Liu had arranged with the manager that if the VIP room on the third floor was unoccupied, he could use it. Today was a celebration for his daughter's acceptance into university, and he had specially invited friends and relatives to celebrate. In front of so many people, he couldn't let these two youngsters embarrass him. Lewis Liu angrily threatened Stacy King. "I am the director of the Hai Long Group. You should think carefully about the consequences of provoking me. While I'm not inclined to deal with you yet, get out now." Stacy King looked up and directly at Lewis Liu. "The Hai Long Group? If you don't manage your employees well, it doesn't need to exist anymore." The moment Lewis Liu clearly saw the other person's face, he sucked in a cold breath. He never expected to meet her here. Stacy King, the seventh daughter of the King family, head of the King Corporation. Offending her meant he wouldn't know when he'd die. Lewis Liu's back was drenched in a cold sweat. Stacy King coldly asked, "Are you one of Zhao Mo's men?" Yes, Miss King. I'm sorry, I was a bit rash just now. Please don't lower yourself to my level." Lewis Liu hurriedly forced a smile, bowing obsequiously, completely losing his previous arrogant demeanor. He even wanted to slap himself a few times. "I'm sorry, Miss King. I'll take my people and leave immediately. I guarantee I won't disturb Miss King's mood. I'll pay for this table. Please take your time and enjoy your meal." Stacy King sneered, "No need." Just as Lewis Liu was about to leave the room, little Shaun King suddenly spoke up. "Mister, there's something wrong with your kidneys. You should go to the hospital for a checkup when you have time." Lewis Liu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Little boy, even if I offended you, you don't need to curse me with kidney problems, do you?" But he didn't dare say anything in front of Stacy King, so he had to bow his head obsequiously. "Young master's right. I'll go to the hospital for a checkup right away." After saying that, he hurriedly left the room. Stacy King looked at little Shaun King with a peculiar gaze, but didn't say anything more. Actually, little Shaun King had a secret. Not long ago, he dreamed of an immortal, Master Alistair, who wanted to take him as a disciple and teach him cultivation, medical arts, and alchemy. Just now, he had used his medical arts to see that the man's eyebrows were pale, his spirit weak, and the chi and blood in his kidneys were blocked. From this, he deduced that the man had a malignant tumor in his kidney. If not treated in time, it would likely be life-threatening. That's why he kindly reminded him. Whether the man believed him or not was his own business. After Lewis Liu and the others left, little Shaun King continued to eat heartily. He quickly filled his stomach, but his eyes still looked longingly at the food on the table. "Big sister, can little Shaun take these dishes home to eat?" Stacy King immediately remembered little Shaun King's previous miserable life, and her heart couldn't help but ache. She gently comforted him. "Of course you can." Leaving the restaurant, Stacy King drove little Shaun King home. 20 minutes later, the car drove into a luxurious villa complex. Stacy King smiled and took little Shaun King's hand. "Little brother, this is our home. This entire villa complex belongs to us." Little Shaun King's jaw dropped in astonishment. Stacy King pulled him into the large villa in the center of the complex. She squatted down, lifted little Shaun King's face, and said gently, "Little brother, sister has to go work. You can play at home. I'll ask Annie Lamb to stay with you. If anything happens, tell her to tell me." After speaking, she called Annie Lamb, the housekeeper, and instructed her to take little Shaun King upstairs to play. She then hurried upstairs to handle company work. Little Shaun King carried Blackie and wandered around the villa, familiarizing himself with this new, somewhat strange home. Auntie Lamb followed beside him, introducing the layout of the house. Finally, she took him to his room. The room was filled with all sorts of toys. It was truly every child's dream paradise. "Wow, what a beautiful room." Little Shaun King jumped onto the large, soft, cartoon-themed bed. It was much more comfortable than the bed under the bridge. "Are you satisfied, young master? If you need anything, just tell Annie Lamb." Satisfied. Thank you, Annie Lamb. It's good that young master is satisfied. Then, young master, please rest. If you need anything, press the button on the headboard, and Annie Lamb will come right away. After speaking, Annie Lamb was about to leave. Little Shaun King suddenly asked, Annie Lamb, where are my parents? Where did they go? Ever since he could remember, little Shaun King had never met his parents. Now he really wanted to see them, but he was afraid his parents wouldn't like him. Auntie Lamb hesitated for a moment and then said, "The master and madam are currently in the north handling some matters and haven't returned yet." Little Shaun King replied with a hint of disappointment. Seeing little Shaun King's expression, Auntie Lamb suddenly felt a pang of pity and hurriedly comforted him. "Young master, don't be sad. The news of young master's return has been reported to the master and madam. They will be back soon." Little Shaun King nodded. After Auntie Lamb left, little Shaun King intended to lie on the big, soft bed for a good sleep when he suddenly felt someone calling him in his head. He quickly sat cross-legged, his consciousness entering his sea of consciousness. As soon as he entered, he heard Shifu's voice. "Good disciple, Shifu has some matters to attend to and must leave you for a while. This is a gift from Shifu. Cultivate well. Don't disappoint Shifu when we meet next time." The voice stopped, and the sea of consciousness became still. In front of little Shaun King were only 6 orbs of light and a storage ring sealed with 9 layers. These are all gifts from Shifu. Unfortunately, they must be opened gradually according to your cultivation level. Your current cultivation is still low. You can only open the first layer of the storage ring. Inside are 3 secret tomes: the Pharmacopoeia King's Secret Tome, the Celestial Phenomenon Divine Manual, and the Chaotic Heaven Fusion Art. Little Shaun King calmed his mind and cultivated according to his understanding of the secret tomes. He quickly became proficient in medical arts, forging, and even zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Unfortunately, his cultivation progressed slowly. To reach the mid-stage chi refinement, it would take about 15 days. Shifu had said that chi gathering pills could be used to speed up cultivation. He also knew the formula for chi gathering pills, and the medicinal ingredients were in the storage ring. Unfortunately, he didn't have an alchemy furnace. Just as little Shaun King was pondering, there was a knock on the door. "Young master, it's time for dinner. Come downstairs with me." Opening the door, little Shaun King obediently followed Annie Lamb downstairs for dinner. Stacy King was already sitting at the dining table. She had just finished her company work, and her beautiful face showed a hint of fatigue. Seeing little Shaun King come downstairs, she immediately regained her spirits and pulled him to her side. Seeing the table full of delicious food, little Shaun King ate heartily. Stacy King looked at him with an affectionate expression. "Little brother, in 3 months, it will be your 6th birthday." Little Shaun King rubbed his full belly, a little confused. "What do you do for a birthday? I've never celebrated a birthday. Grandpa Joe didn't know when my birthday was either." Stacy King's eyes welled up with tears. She took a handkerchief and wiped his mouth, gently saying, "Your birthday is October 9th. For a birthday, you eat a big cake, wear new clothes, and make a wish." Little Shaun King asked, "What does cake taste like?" Stacy King said, "Soft and sweet like a cloud." Little Shaun King imagined the feeling, full of anticipation. After dinner, while no one was paying attention, little Shaun King sneaked into the kitchen, intending to use the rice cooker as a substitute for an alchemy furnace. He was determined to refine chi gathering pills today. Because he wasn't tall enough, he even brought over a stool to stand on. Standing in front of the rice cooker, he took out the necessary medicinal ingredients from the storage ring and put them into the rice cooker one by one. He started it, then sent a faint stream of spiritual energy into it, carefully sensing the changes in the medicinal ingredients inside. 15 minutes later, a bang suddenly echoed from the kitchen. Quickly, a group of people gathered at the kitchen door. "What happened? Annie Lamb, did something explode?" Stacy King, who had just finished bathing and was wearing a loose nightgown, had a worried look on her face. As soon as she heard the explosion, she immediately went to look for her younger brother, but couldn't find him. Annie Lamb was also worried. "I don't know either. I wanted to go in just now, but the smoke was too thick." The kitchen was now filled with smoke. Everyone vaguely saw a small figure approaching. It was little Shaun King, his hair singed and his body blackened. He grinned widely at everyone, his white teeth gleaming. "Big sister, Annie Lamb." The rice cooker exploded. Looking at the charred rice cooker and little Shaun King, Stacy King couldn't help the corner of her mouth from twitching. "Little brother, why were you using the rice cooker? This thing is dangerous." Her voice was a bit stern, afraid he might have been injured. Fortunately, a thorough check showed little Shaun King was unharmed. Little Shaun King bowed his head, looking remorseful. "I wanted to learn to cook for you to taste." Stacy King suddenly felt a warmth in her heart and quickly arranged for him to take a hot bath. After bathing and returning to his room, he carefully closed the window. Little Shaun King grinned mischievously. "That was close. Almost got exposed." Like a thief, he took out the newly refined chi gathering pills from the storage ring. He was supposed to refine 10 pills, but only 4 were successful. Little Shaun King shook his head, not very satisfied with this result. He didn't know if these words reached the ears of alchemists. They would be angered to the point of vomiting blood. A child under 6 years old, without an alchemy furnace, successfully refined 4 chi gathering pills on his first try and was still unhappy. Little Shaun King didn't hesitate and directly swallowed a chi gathering pill, starting to cultivate. Overnight, the spiritual energy in his body had accumulated by an additional 20%. At this rate, he would break through to the mid-stage chi refinement in just another week. Unfortunately, he had no more pills, and a rice cooker couldn't be used anymore. He definitely needed an alchemy furnace. Today, Stacy King had to go to work, so she asked her assistant, Lily, to take little Shaun King out to play. She also gave him 100,000 yuan in pocket money. Young master, where do you want to go play today? Lily drove the car, smiling. She was also very fond of little Shaun King. He thought for a moment and then said directly, I want to see an alchemy furnace. An alchemy furnace? Where? Lily was taken aback by this question. An alchemy furnace is useless. It's just a decoration. Young master, why do you want to see it? It can't make delicious food. How about we go buy new clothes and then go to an amusement park? Little Shaun King blinked his big eyes, looking at Lily with a pitiful expression. I just want to see it, Sister Lily. Can you take me to see it? Lily really couldn't bear to refuse little Shaun King, so she drove him to the leisurely Cloud Taoist temple in the suburbs. As soon as he entered the main hall, little Shaun King saw an alchemy furnace in the corner, his eyes shining brightly. He had just taken a few steps closer when the old Taoist master, who was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the main hall with his eyes closed as if sleeping. Suddenly, Master Wallace spoke. Young friend, you've come to my humble temple. Could it be you're eyeing my alchemy furnace? Shaun King stared blankly at Master Wallace, a wicked thought suddenly popping into his head. This old Taoist doesn't seem very powerful. Maybe I should knock him out and steal the alchemy furnace. Just as Shaun King was scheming, Assistant Lily walked over and asked, Young master, you see it, right? This alchemy furnace is useless. Shaun King nodded. The next second, he hugged the alchemy furnace tightly and wouldn't let go. Sister Lily, can you take this alchemy furnace home? I really like it. Assistant Lily rubbed her forehead. Other people's children like transforming robots, toy guns, and things like that. Why does our young master like this dilapidated furnace? She thought for a moment, then walked over to Master Wallace and said, Master Taoist, hello? Is this alchemy furnace for sale? Name your price. We absolutely won't let your esteemed temple suffer a loss. Only then did Master Wallace open his eyes. He ignored Assistant Lily and stared intently at Shaun King, his eyes seeming to emit a golden light, as if wanting to see through him. Shaun King was startled, suspecting Master Wallace was a cultivator hiding his true strength. But then he saw Master Wallace raise one finger. Assistant Lily, seeing this, asked doubtfully, 100,000 yuan? No problem. Hearing this, a look of astonishment flickered across Master Wallace's face. He had actually been about to ask for 10,000 yuan. After all, this broken furnace was useless to him and already covered in dust. He hadn't expected a fool to offer 10 times that amount. So, he feigned profoundness. This humble Taoist sees that young friend has an affinity with our ancestors' alchemy furnace. 100,000 yuan it is. Considered a way to accumulate merit for the temple. Shaun King noticed a glint of amusement flash in Master Wallace's eyes and suddenly felt he'd been tricked. He let go of the alchemy furnace, feigning regret. Sister Lily, it's too expensive. I don't want it anymore. Hearing Shaun King, Assistant Lily didn't say anything more and turned to lead him out. Seeing the cooked duck about to fly away, Master Wallace immediately grew anxious. He hurriedly stood up and said to them, Wait a moment. This humble Taoist sees that the young benefactor has an affinity with the alchemy furnace. The price can be negotiated. Shaun King turned back and asked, 3,000 yuan deal? Master Wallace swallowed the words he was about to say, stammering, 50,000 yuan. Young friend, just take it. 40,000 yuan, no more. 40,000 yuan, say no more. Assistant Lily stood mouth agape, watching Shaun King haggle with Master Wallace, just like the Andes at the market. She truly hadn't expected a 5-year-old child to do such a thing. In the end, Shaun King bought the alchemy furnace for 8,800 yuan. Master Wallace was so angry his face contorted, cursing Shaun King 1,000 times in his heart. Leaving the Taoist temple, Assistant Lily drove Shaun King to the King Corporation. At this time, his older sister, Stacy King, was in a meeting. Shaun King didn't want to disturb her, so he played by himself in the chairman's office. He saw a calligraphy brush and Xian paper on the desk, and suddenly remembered the ancient poems his master had taught him. Inspired, he began to write. The characters were beautiful, the poetic sentiment heroic. In less than 3 minutes, he had finished a poem. Feeling unsatisfied, Shaun King continued to write several more. Finally, exhausted, he lay down on the sofa and fell asleep. Just then, Stacy King finished her meeting and returned to the office. Seeing Shaun King sleeping soundly on the sofa, a faint smile appeared on her face. She was about to gently touch his tender face when she suddenly noticed the poems on the table. Her whole body froze, and she rushed over to look. Empty the green wine cup, flowers fall and scatter. Ask in the deep pond, where is the sword immortal now? Stacy King read the poem over and over again. A masterpiece. This is a masterpiece. The poem already carried a sword-like aura, and combined with the sword-like strokes of the calligraphy, both hidden and sharp, it almost made Stacy King exclaim in amazement. She was certain this was an unparalleled work. If put up for auction, it would undoubtedly fetch an astronomical price. Who on earth wrote this? Stacy King murmured. Then, she gently woke Shaun King up and asked with a smile, Who wrote these poems? Shaun King rubbed his eyes and said very naturally that he had written them. Stacy King tapped his nose. She didn't believe these characters were written by him, but didn't press further, planning to ask assistant Lily directly tomorrow. When it was time to get off work, Stacy King took Shaun King home. At this time, Annie Lamb was struggling with a huge alchemy furnace. This thing is so ugly. There's no place to put it in the villa as a decoration. Seeing them return, she hurried over. Stacy King saw the alchemy furnace and suddenly remembered assistant Lily reporting to her that her younger brother had just bought one. She looked at Shaun King and asked, "Little brother, why did you want to buy an alchemy furnace? Don't tell me you want to be like the supreme old lord and refine elixirs here." Shaun King gave a forced laugh. "No, I just thought it looked nice, so I wanted to buy it to play with." "Nice." Stacy King's face was full of bewilderment. A 5-year-old child liking an alchemy furnace. It was strange no matter how she thought about it. She added, "Little brother, this thing is big and heavy, and we don't have space for it. How about I buy you a robot that can fly and light up?" Shaun King quickly said, "Sister, I don't need a robot. I just need the alchemy furnace. It can go in my room." Seeing him so insistent, Stacy King didn't try to stop him anymore and had someone carry the alchemy furnace into Shaun King's room. Looking at the alchemy furnace in his room, Shaun King chuckled to himself. Now, refining pills will be much easier. True to his word, after dinner, he carefully locked his room door and prepared to refine pills. This time, with the help of a real alchemy furnace, he managed to refine 10 chi condensing pills in one go. Looking at the 10 round pills lying in the alchemy furnace, Shaun King's heart was filled with joy. He remembered his master, Alistair, once saying that any alchemist who could refine 7 or more pills in 100 attempts was a genius alchemist. Now he had refined 10 in one go. I must be a genius. He didn't know that in the alchemy world, alchemists who could refine 8 pills within 10 attempts were already considered prodigies. As for him, refining 10 pills in a single attempt made him a prodigy among prodigies. Shaun King didn't hesitate. He immediately swallowed a pill and began to cultivate. After an unknown amount of time, a pop sound came from his dantian, like paper being pierced. Shaun King abruptly opened his eyes, overjoyed. I finally broke through. He had successfully broken through from the early stage of chi refining to the middle stage of chi refining. Suppressing his excitement, Shaun King continued to cultivate to consolidate his cultivation base, because Master Alistair had once said that the foundation must be solid, and the cultivation base must be stable. The next morning, Annie Lamb came to wake Shaun King up as usual. But as soon as she entered the room, she smelled a foul, fishy odor. At this moment, Shaun King realized Annie Lamb had entered and slowly opened his eyes. "Annie Lamb, I'm awake. You can go first." But Annie Lamb asked, "Young master, where did you go last night? You're so dirty, and you smell like fish." Hearing this, Shaun King quickly looked at his body. Sure enough, there was a layer of dirt clinging to him. This was impurities expelled from his body when he broke through and underwent marrow cleansing. Shaun King blushed and quickly made up an excuse, laughing. "Aha, I went fishing with Blackie last night. I'll go take a bath right away." After saying that, he quickly jumped off the bed, grabbed a fresh set of clothes, and ran into the bathroom. Just then, Blackie happened to pass by his door, looked at him with a puzzled expression, and barked twice, "Woof woof." Annie Lamb shook her head and smiled. Children are so mischievous, even sneaking out to catch fish. It seems I'll have to lock the door tonight. Shaun King naturally sat down next to Stacy King. "Sister, I want to eat that." He pointed to the fruit platter opposite them. However, Stacy King didn't immediately get the fruit for him, as she usually did. Shaun King turned his head and looked at her doubtfully, only to see her staring at him with a look of astonishment. Even Annie Lamb, standing beside her, looked at him in surprise. "Sister? Annie Lamb? What's wrong? Is there something dirty on my face?" Shaun King blinked his innocent eyes, looking at them in confusion. "Shaun!" Stacy King's voice trembled slightly, making him worried. "Shaun, why are you so adorable?" Stacy King couldn't hold back anymore, hugged him tightly, and kissed him all over. "What's going on?" Shaun King's head was buzzing, though he let his sister kiss his face. In fact, Shaun King didn't know how significant the change in him was after entering the middle stage of chi refining. Not only was his aura more outstanding, but his skin was also fairer and rosier, making him truly adorable. Moreover, he had a milky fragrance about him that made Stacy King unable to resist wanting to hold him. Breakfast today, Shaun King ate very little because his sister kept looking at him and smiling, like a white rabbit targeted by a tiger. He couldn't help but feel uneasy. Even after breakfast, his sister decided not to go to work and stay home to play with him all day. Walking down the street, Shaun King held a milk tea in his left hand and a chicken drumstick in his right, looking extremely conspicuous. Coupled with his sister being an ice queen goddess, the rate of heads turning skyrocketed. Men, women, old, and young were all captivated. Hey, look at that girl. Such long legs. If I could date her for a day, this life would be worth it. Oh, what a cute little boy. I want to kiss him, hug him, lift him up high. Oh no, my heart is melting. Quick, call an ambulance. Shaun King felt countless eyes staring at him, and just found these people terrifying. "Sister, where are we going later?" He tugged at his sister's hand, seeking comfort. Stacy King smiled gently, ruffling his hair. How about I take you to an amusement park later? Shaun King shook his head. Amusement parks were for little kids, and he was no longer a 3 or 4-year-old child. Stacy King looked at him in surprise, even doubting herself. She had specifically consulted several mothers with young children in the company, and they had all advised taking children to an amusement park, guaranteeing it would make them happy all day. She hadn't expected her younger brother not to like it. Well, she could only change _place. She knew she had to quickly build a deep bond with her younger brother because her time to monopolize him was running out. Entering a store, Stacy King was casually browsing jewelry when a fey voice came from behind. Hello, beautiful lady. Can I get to know you? Stacy King turned around and saw a man with blonde hair, giving off a pretty boy vibe. But Stacy King was in no mood to pay attention to this type of immature youth and directly said, not interested. The pretty boy didn't feel embarrassed at all, still maintaining a smile he thought was radiant. According to his observation, this type of ice goddess must have an extraordinary family background. If he could conquer her, not only would he live in luxury, but he could also show off to his friends. Miss, I see you seem to be choosing jewelry. I happen to be a student majoring in gemology at university name. How about I take you to see some? Stacy King didn't want to waste time on him and directly threatened. I advise you not to have any bad intentions, or you'll regret your disrespectful actions. The pretty boy was startled. This girl seemed to have a strong personality, just his type. With his many years of experience as a scum man, he completely ignored Stacy King's threat. Miss, I see you're free too. How about I take you for a stroll in the Jade Street? There's a very interesting gambling game inside. Hearing this, Shaun King, who was eavesdropping nearby, suddenly became interested. If there are high-quality spirit stones, I can bring some back to make a few spiritual artifacts for my sister. He eagerly asked, where is Jade Street? Only then did the pretty boy notice his presence. He immediately decided to find an opportunity through him, putting on what he thought was a gentle smile. Little brother, Jade Street is on the 7th floor of the Emperor Shopping Mall. Big brother can take you there, okay? After saying that, he made a gesture to lead the way. But then he heard Shaun King say, Big brother, no need. I'll go with my sister. You should go find another pretty sister. You're not worthy of my sister. The smile on the pretty boy's face instantly froze. Stacy King smiled and ruffled Shaun King's hair, silently praising him. Indeed, my good little brother. Then she led him to Jade Street. At this moment, everyone around was looking at the pretty boy as if he were a clown. He was embarrassed and angry, glaring at their retreating backs and gritting his teeth. Damn woman, not giving me any face. Since you've come to Jade Street, just you wait. After saying that, he took out his phone and made a call. On the other side, Shaun King walked a few steps and suddenly stopped, his eyes fixed on a pitch black or on a small stall. That's umber gold, or it's an excellent material for refining artifacts. Moreover, this piece is so large, enough for me to refine a flying sword. So he asked the vendor, Uncle, how much is this black stone? The vendor, who was dozing off, suddenly heard a customer and quickly woke up. But seeing that the one asking the price was a 5-year-old kid, he became impatient. 50,000 yuan. Buy it or get lost. Shaun King decisively agreed. Okay. The vendor was stunned. He had picked up this stone in the toilet of his hometown during the New Year. It was stinky and hard. He never expected some fool would be willing to pay 50,000 yuan for it. The vendor cleared his throat, craftily placing his hand on the stone. Wait a minute. This stone is 50,000 yuan, but it's not sold alone. You have to buy something else too. Stacy King, standing beside him, immediately turned cold. Shopkeeper, you're really cunning, daring to ask such a sky-high price for a worthless piece of rock like this. The vendor trembled, looked up, and then slumped to the ground in terror. Isn't this woman Stacy King, the head of the King Corporation? After confirming, the vendor's legs went soft. You can just take it. No money needed. It's free. Free. Shaun King was surprised. He hadn't expected a single sentence from his sister could scare the vendor to this extent. He didn't know that among the 4 major families in Mo City, Stacy King was the youngest to control her family's corporation. This alone was enough to show her strength and methods. Angering her truly meant you couldn't live peacefully in Mo City. Having obtained the Umbra gold ore, Shaun King was delighted and about to leave when he heard a crowd gathered in front of Jade's shop. Very lively. Getting closer, he saw was Jade gambling. At this moment, everyone was discussing animatedly. This is the 3rd time already. If he doesn't get green, that young man will suffer heavy losses. Beside the stone-cutting machine, a young man in his 20s was waiting anxiously, his face flushed. Clack! The stone was cut in half. Nothing. The young man collapsed to the ground, crying bitterly. 3 rough stones had cost him 400,000 yuan, almost taking his life. Some onlookers felt sorry, while others gloated. Behind, large and small rough stones were placed on the ground, clearly marked with prices, but no one could guarantee if there was jade inside. Some became rich overnight because of it. Others went bankrupt. But Shaun King seemed to have a cheat activated. His spiritual sense spread out, and the contents of the rough stones were crystal clear to him. Shaun King smiled at Stacy King. Sister, I want to pick stones too. It looks fun. Stacy King didn't mind. As long as her little brother was happy, even losing a few million was a small matter. Seeing that a parent had agreed, the staff didn't stop them, but their eyes still held a hint of suspicion. Miss, could you verify your assets? Mainly, we're afraid that after cutting, your balance won't be sufficient, which would make things difficult for us. Stacy King calmly took out a card and handed it to the staff. People immediately started whispering, taking out a random card without even looking. I bet there's no more than 2 yuan in it. If there's 100 yuan, I'll eat this stone while doing a handstand. Quiet. Stacy King glanced coldly at the crowd. Everyone immediately fell silent, but still maintained an eager, gossipy expression. Quickly, a curvaceous woman in a cheongsam ran over and respectfully returned the card to Stacy King. Respected lady, the balance in your card just exceeded 100 million yuan. Please come to the VIP area. I apologize for my earlier offense. As soon as she finished speaking, the crowd erupted. 100 million yuan. You're not mistaken, right? Such a young rich lady. Where are the 2 guys who said they'd eat a stone doing a handstand? Only 2 people in the crowd were seen with their heads bowed, quietly slipping away, afraid of being recognized. On the other side, Shaun King, seeing his sister had arranged everything, happily went to pick stones. He quickly selected more than 10 rough stones, totaling 2 million yuan. Stacy King paid without hesitation. Everyone couldn't help but shake their heads. Then, Shaun King requested the stones be cut on the spot. The stone cutter quickly got into position, took out a medium-sized rough stone, and placed it in the cutting machine. Shaun King stood beside them, pouting. This machine cuts so slowly. It would be faster if I just smashed them open. Luckily, he said this quietly, or people would have laughed their heads off. The machine had almost cut halfway, but still no green was visible. People shook their heads. After all, it was chosen by a 5-year-old child. It was normal not to find Jade. It was just a pity about those 2 million yuan. But then, someone suddenly shouted, "It's green!" Instantly, cheers echoed throughout the shopping mall. On the smooth-cut surface, 1/3 of the area was green, belonging to the medium-grade water-clear Jade. The staff member held a megaphone and announced, "According to the store's rules, onlookers can bid. The seller decides whether to sell or not. First rough stone, any bids?" People immediately started discussing the value of this jade. "I think this piece of jade weighs about 10 caddies. I bid 100,000 yuan. 140,000 yuan. Highest bid 140,000 yuan. Does the seller sell?" The staff member asked Shaun King. He nodded. After all, this stone was the worst among those he had chosen. So, this jade was sold for 140,000 yuan. Quickly, the second rough stone was also cut in half, revealing a beautiful cut surface. "It's green again." The crowd roared again. Even Stacy King, sitting in the stands, was agape with astonishment. She hadn't expected her little brother's luck to be so good, getting green twice in a row. Moreover, this jade was as black as ink, belonging to the high-grade black jade. A staff member stepped forward and shouted, "A piece of high-grade black jade. Any bids?" "I bid 150,000 yuan. 160,000 yuan. 200,000 yuan. Finally, this piece of jade was sold for 200,000 yuan. Next was the third rough stone. After being cut in half, it was empty inside. People sighed, thinking Shaun King's luck had run out. Even the stone cutter shook his head. However, Shaun King confidently stepped forward, used his small hand to draw on the rough stone, and then looked at the stone cutter. "Sir, please make a cut from here." "All right, don't be discouraged. There are wins and losses." The stone cutter smiled and began to cut. The stone split open. A sparkling blue-white light appeared before everyone. "It's a hit. A good one came out. This is top-grade clear white jade. It even seems to be the Ice Sea type. So big. Oh my god." Before the staff could even speak, bidding started from below. "I bid 500,000 yuan. 500,000 yuan, and you dare to compete? Such a large piece of ice-seed, clear white jade. Go collect scrap for another 2 years, and then come back." "I bid 800,000 yuan. 900,000 yuan. 1 million yuan. Finally, it was sold for 1 million yuan. Next was the fourth rough stone, cut to reveal ice-seed white jade, sold for 2 million yuan. The fifth stone, cut to reveal ice-seed mutton fat jade, sold for 2.8 million yuan. The sixth stone, cut to reveal pure yellow jade, sold for 1.3 million yuan. The seventh and eighth stones also sold for high prices, 900,000 yuan. Even more terrifying was the ninth rough stone, which actually cut out glass-type imperial jade of the highest grade. The transaction price reached 15 million yuan. Everyone was stunned. This wasn't jade gambling. It was clearly a live unboxing of jadeite. 2 rough stones remained. Everyone couldn't help but swallow. Even passers-by, who didn't know each other, felt a strange kind of pressure. However, when the next rough stone was cut, people only found this jade strange. "Is this blue water jade? Why did it cut out a reject? Blue water jade is trash. This piece must be worth tens of thousands of yuan. I think you've been looking at goddesses too much, so you find ordinary people ugly, huh?" Clearly, people hadn't recovered from the shock of Shaun King continuously cutting out sky-high price jade. But at this moment, a highly respected appraisal expert, after careful examination, turned around and shouted, "Silence, you country bumpkins! This is imperial blue water jade. I heard that the pendant the King family bought for their only son was also made from imperial blue water jade, 10 times smaller than this one, and it was auctioned for 100 million yuan. Then doesn't this piece mean it's worth 1 billion? Everyone was stunned. The area below descended into chaos. Some people even wanted to rush up and snatch it. After all, with 10 billion yuan displayed before their eyes, who wouldn't go crazy? Stacy King stood up. If any unexpected situation arose, she would definitely protect her younger brother. When security finally controlled the situation, people began a new round of bidding. 300 million yuan. 350 million yuan. Everyone stopped dawdling. We all know the value of this jade. I bid 700 million yuan. Jason Chow, chairman of Chow Corporation, calmly spoke. He was determined to get this precious jade. But then a new price was called out. 800 million yuan. Everyone in the shopping mall gasped. They never thought they would witness such a 100 million yuan auction. But the price of the imperial blue water jade continued to rise. At this point, everyone's hearts were in their throats. 950 million yuan. 1 billion. Jason Chow almost shouted. Instantly, everyone in the shopping mall fell silent. 1 billion yuan. This number was like a sledgehammer, pounding on everyone's soul. 1 billion. Anyone bidding higher? If not, please ask the seller to decide whether to sell or not. The auctioneer in charge announced excitedly. Then, congratulations to Mr. Chow. Wait. The staff member thought he misheard and asked again. Shaun King, not selling. I already said, I'm not selling this jade. He had other uses for it. Jason Chow immediately flew into a rage. He pulled his bodyguards aside, whispered a few words, and then they began to act. The staff member announced the result again. Unfortunately, the seller has decided not to sell this precious jade. Everyone sighed in unison. It was a bit regrettable not to witness the final transaction. But then, an arrogant and domineering voice came from behind the crowd. Move aside. Make way. A young man, leading more than 10 bodyguards in black, pushed straight through. Several security guards were knocked to the ground. Stopping about 10 meters from Shaun King, the lead bodyguard sneered. Kid, our boss wants to talk to you. Come with uncle for a trip. How dare you? Stacy King, standing in the stands, immediately spoke coldly and walked down. Step by step, shielding Shaun King. Who dares to touch Stacy King's younger brother? As soon as she finished speaking, a group of professional bodyguards rushed in, surrounding them. The surrounding crowd also started buzzing with discussion. Stacy King, chairwoman of the King Corporation? That's right, the seventh daughter of the King family in Mo City, the goddess of the business world. Is this kid Miss King's younger brother? Nonsense. She already said so. Why do you need to repeat it? The onlookers couldn't remain calm either, excitedly taking photos and posting them on their moments. The lead bodyguard frowned. Stacy King, the seventh daughter of the King family? Why her? Before he could react, Stacy King coldly said, Aren't you going to scram? You want to go against the King family? The bodyguard's face turned beet red, but he could only give up and lead the group of bodyguards away. But before leaving, he turned his head to look at Shaun King one more time. It was clear he hadn't completely given up his intentions. But Shaun King didn't care. As the last cultivator on Earth, no matter what tricks he had, Shaun King wasn't afraid. After Jason Chow's men left, Shaun King had someone cut the last rough stone. A brilliant green light immediately flashed before everyone's eyes. This is the King of Jadeite, ancestral imperial green. Stacy King shot up, unable to believe it. Even the stone cutter almost blurted out a swear word. Almost everyone stared at the jade with fervent eyes. After all, the value of this ancestral imperial green was even higher than the imperial blue water jade. Stacy King immediately canceled the auction and ordered the bodyguards to escort them out of the store. But unexpectedly, as soon as they left, a crowd rushed into the store, scrambling to pick stones, even fighting over them. After all, if a 5-year-old kid like Shaun King could continuously cut out jade, there was no reason why they, as adults, couldn't. Shaun King just smiled. He feared they would be disappointed because he had already picked all the rough stones containing jade. The remaining ones were all empty. Back in the car, Shaun King suddenly felt someone staring intently at him. Before he could react, Stacy King hugged him and cuddled him intensely. My little treasure, you're so amazing. You scared me half to death. Let me reward you with a kiss. Shaun King struggled out of his sister's arms. Although his sister smelled very fragrant, he felt it was strange. Stacy King raised an eyebrow. Doesn't little brother want to be close to me? This won't do. Returning to the villa, Shaun King finally escaped his sister's devilish claws, carrying the Umbra gold ore and running into his room. Thinking about soon refining a flying sword and flying on it, he grinned from ear to ear. However, just as he was about to put the Umbra gold ore into the alchemy furnace, the room door was pushed open. Stacy King stood leaning against the doorframe, staring at him. Shaun King stammered, What is it, seventh sister? Is something wrong? Faced with his stammering, Stacy King didn't quite believe him in her heart, but she didn't mind and directly said, To strengthen our sibling bond and create a good family atmosphere, I've decided that from today onwards, you will sleep with me. At first, Shaun King was listening drowsily until he heard the last sentence. He jolted awake and hurriedly refused. No way. I'm not a 3 or 4-year-old anymore. I want to sleep by myself. If I sleep in the same room as you, I'm afraid I won't be able to cultivate normally. However, Stacy King wouldn't give up. Be good, just for one day, okay? Really, tomorrow you won't have to sleep with me anymore. Sister's promise. Seeing his sister so insistent, Shaun King had to agree and obediently followed her to her room. Stacy King wore a loose, milky white nightgown, while Shaun King wore adorable dinosaur pajamas, lying on the bed. Stacy King gently caressed his tender face and suddenly asked, "Do you know why someone switched you at birth?" Shaun King shook his head. Stacy King continued, "Actually, our parents are not from Mo City. Our father's name is Jack King, the second son of the King family in the capital. He was exceptionally talented from a young age, but fell in love with our mother. You know, families in the capital place great importance on marriages between social equals." Shaun King listened attentively, but after talking for a while, his sister fell asleep again. Shaun King was frustrated and wanted to wake his sister up to finish the story, but seeing her sleeping soundly, he couldn't bear to wake her. Finally, he yawned, snuggled into his sister's embrace, and fell asleep. The next morning, when Shaun King woke up and went downstairs, seventh sister Stacy was sitting at the table, frowning at her phone. Curious, he walked over to her side and saw his sister looking at hot hashtags. Hashtag 5-year-old boy Jade gambling cuts out 10 billion treasure. Hashtag Ice Goddess Stacy King head of King Corp protectively shields brother. Hashtag so cute is Miss King's brother. Quickly, the hot post had tens of thousands more comments. Stacy King, looking serious, immediately called Assistant Lily. "Lily, contact the PR department and immediately take down the hot topics about my little brother." Shaun King blinked his innocent eyes, not understanding why his sister was so tense. "Is it necessary?" Stacy King saw his doubt, but just smiled wryly, patted his head, and said nothing more. Could it be because of the King family in the capital? Shaun King thought to himself, but didn't pay too much attention because Master Alistair had once said, "If anyone angers you, just sit back and make them fear you." After breakfast, Shaun King went out for a run, and Blackie quickly followed. After running for a while, Blackie was exhausted, barking woof woof, as if wondering, how can young master run longer than a dog? This is killing me. Shaun King chuckled and said to Blackie, "Blackie, want to see me perform?" Blackie tilted its head, puzzled. Shaun King circulated his spiritual energy and threw a punch towards the lake surface. Crimson Flame 9 Fists, first form, Fire Fist. Countless sparks in the air converged into a giant fiery fist, like a meteor, whistling down onto the lake surface. Boom! Water splashed everywhere. In an instant, the water level dropped by a few centimeters, and the entire lake surface was steaming. Woof! Blackie was so scared its fur stood on end, its small eyes staring fixedly at the lake surface. "Scare me to death." Shaun King shook his hand, feeling that one fire fist had consumed 20% of his spiritual energy. "It seems I still can't casually use martial skills before reaching the foundation establishment stage." Turning around, he saw Blackie still staring at the lake, drool dripping from the corner of its mouth. Shaun King looked back at the lake and saw a bunch of dead fish floating on the surface. He slapped his forehead. Oops. He picked up Blackie and scampered off. As soon as he left, the daily patrolling security guard ran over, looking at the steaming artificial lake filled with dead fish with a puzzled expression. Meanwhile, Shaun King, the culprit, had run back to his room, put Blackie down, and looked at it seriously. "Blackie, do you want to cultivate with me?" Blackie barked firmly once. "Good. As expected, I wasn't mistaken about you." Shaun King was about to lead Blackie in cultivation when his phone suddenly received a message. It was from Holly Lamb. She was a kind older sister he had met when he was wandering, who often gave him food and clothes. Later, when Shaun King returned to the King family, he happened to meet her again and added her on WeChat. Shaun King opened Holly Lamb's message. "Shaun, sorry to bother you. Can you ask your family if they know any doctors? My mother, Mrs. Linda Lamb, has terminal stomach cancer, and now no hospital will admit her. I'm really at my wit's end. Can you help me?" After reading it, Shaun King pondered. Terminal stomach cancer. Many hospitals would only prescribe painkillers. It would just be a waste of money and prolonged suffering. Therefore, hospitals often don't accept such patients. If the patient died in the hospital, it would be awkward for the family. To others, it might be an incurable disease, but for him, as long as she wasn't completely dead, there was still a chance to snatch her from the King of Hell because he trusted the medical skills Master Alistair had taught him. He immediately messaged Holly Lamb. "Send your location. I'll come right away." After receiving the location, Shaun King flew downstairs, found Driver Lou, pointed to a row of luxury cars, and told him to drive whichever one he liked. Driver Lou was immediately so excited he trembled. Although he was the family driver, he had never had the chance to drive these luxury cars. "Young master is so good to me." He immediately chose a Rolls-Royce Red, a car he could only dream of driving. Just as they left the villa, at the street corner diagonally opposite the main gate, a cunning-looking man spoke into a walkie-talkie. "Target has left the villa." Repeat, "Target has left the villa." In the car, Shaun King and Driver Lou were still unaware. Driver Lou asked, "Young master, where are we going?" "To the corporation to find Miss King." Shaun King, sitting in the back seat, said, "I want to buy a set of acupuncture needles. You lead the way." Hearing Shaun King wanted to buy acupuncture needles, Driver Lou's heart skipped a beat, and the car even shuddered. If Miss King finds out I took young master to buy such dangerous things, she'll definitely skin me alive. Shaun King saw driver lose hesitation and smirked slyly. If you don't take me, I'll tell my sister about your bad deeds. Be careful, you might get kicked out of the King family. Hearing his innocent threat, driver Lu immediately crumbled. It seems everyone's been fooled by young master. He's clearly a little devil. In the end, driver Lu had no choice but to obey and drove to a medical equipment store. Driver Lu stopped the car, and Shaun King got out and ran into the store. Driver Lu got out, intending to follow, but was surrounded by a group of gaudily made-up young women. Hey, handsome, want to have a drink with me? The sweet kind. Driver Lu felt both helpless and happy. After all, he was driving a Rolls-Royce. He was mistaken for a young master. Driver Lu looked at young masters retreating back, his heart in turmoil. But the group of girls gave him no chance, even groping his chest and pressing close to him. He had no choice but to deal with these girls, and thus didn't notice a van quietly approaching. Shaun King bought the acupuncture needles, then stopped by the shop next door to buy a cup of milk tea. But just as he stepped out of the shop, a sack suddenly came down over him. Got him! Let's go quick! 4 men unexpectedly appeared, carried the sack, quickly jumped into the van, and sped off. Only then did driver Lu notice Shaun King being kidnapped. He shouted, immediately pushed the girls away, got back into the car, ignored their cursing, quickly started the car, and chased after the van. But in the end, after running several red lights, he still lost them. Driver Lu didn't dare to delay, immediately reported it to the police, and then called Annie Lamb. At this time inside the van, Shaun King was calmly drinking milk tea inside the sack, not scared at all. He even found it a bit interesting. As the last cultivator on Earth, this was the first time he had encountered such danger. When the van drove into an abandoned factory and stopped, Shaun King felt there was no need to pretend anymore. The spiritual energy around him vibrated slightly, and the sack instantly disintegrated. The men in the van were startled. What happened? A magic trick? Shaun King maintained his innocent expression, drinking milk tea. The leader didn't care how he did it. Anyway, they had arrived, and his mission was complete. At this time, more than 10 bodyguards had gathered in the factory, and a curvaceous woman, Chelsea Tran, was sitting in the middle. The leader respectfully said, "Boss, I've brought him." Chelsea Tran then threw him a suitcase full of cash. She walked over to Shaun King, caressed his face with her finger. "Such a beautiful child. Too bad your name is Shaun King." After speaking, Chelsea Tran turned around, sat back down, and ordered the bodyguards beside her, "Go tie him up and put him in the car." Several bodyguards holding ropes approached Shaun King. "Wait, sister, why did you kidnap me?" Shaun King asked innocently. Chelsea Tran chuckled. "I can't tell you that. You'll know when you get there." Shaun King sighed. "No, you have to tell me. Otherwise, I'll hit you. I don't like being kidnapped." "Don't like being kidnapped, haha." Everyone in the factory burst out laughing, not taking his threat seriously at all. Shaun King shook his head. "Sigh, I'm telling the truth. Why does no one believe me?" In an instant, his clothes fluttered and a powerful pressure descended upon those around him. Just a single glance made the kidnappers feel as if a mountain was pressing down on them. Chelsea Tran's expression changed. She shouted, and the kidnappers rushed toward Shaun King. But he just flicked his hand, and immediately more than a dozen stones flew out at extreme speed, hitting the kidnappers. Instantly, everyone stood frozen in place. Chelsea Tran shouted in panic, "What's wrong? You useless bunch, attack." But none of her subordinates responded. Terrified, Chelsea Tran hurriedly took out her phone and sent a message. By now, Shaun King was standing in front of her, smiling sweetly. "Sister, can you tell me now who sent you? I don't want to hit you." Chelsea Tran gritted her teeth. How could she, an adult, be scared by a kid? Regaining her composure, she reached out to grab Shaun King. But the moment she reached out, smack, a crisp slap landed on her face. Her left cheek quickly swelled, imprinting a hand mark. "You bastard! How dare you hit me?" Chelsea Tran was furious, but before she could finish her sentence, Shaun King slapped her a few more times. Her face immediately swelled up like a pig's head. Just then, a bald man, Hector the Bearstone, rushed in. Shaun King frowned slightly because he sensed a faint trace of spiritual energy in this man's body. Could he also be a cultivator? But he immediately shook his head, because Master Alistair had once said that the spiritual energy on Earth was thin, and there couldn't be a second cultivator. At this moment, Hector Stone looked at Chelsea Tran and jeered. "Haha, Chelsea Tran, did young Master Chow play with you until you're broken? Getting beaten up like this by a kid?" Chelsea Tran rubbed her swollen face, sobbing, "Hector Stone, quick, catch this brat." Hector Stone sneered, raised a fist as big as a sandbag, and punched towards Shaun King with a whistling sound. Shaun King pouted. "I already said I don't want to fight." Then, he raised his small hand to block the punch. Boom! The fists collided. The tremendous force made Hector Stone stagger backward. He was astonished, clearly feeling that his right hand seemed to be broken. Shaun King slowly said, "Who sent you to kidnap me? You can't beat me. Confess now." Hector Stone was so angry he wanted to curse, being overpowered by a 5-year-old kid. But he didn't dare to resist anymore, and had to confess honestly. It turned out that the masterminds behind the kidnapping were the Chow family, Jason Chow, and a major figure in the capital. Shaun King nodded. The Chow family was definitely the one who wanted to buy his Jade last time. So, who was the major figure in the capital? The King family in the capital? Shaun King clenched his fists. No matter who dared to mess with him, he would fight back. Then he told the kidnappers to take him to Holly Lamb's house. Seeing only Shaun King arrive, Holly Lamb couldn't help but look disappointed. She thought he would bring a medical expert to save her mother. Shaun King hurriedly explained that his sister would come later, but her family members all showed disdain. Holly, things have come to this, and you still bring an outsider? He's just a child, what can he do? Holly Lamb bit her lip, her face full of grievance. At this moment, Shaun King comforted her. Auntie, Mrs. Linda Lamb, can still be saved. Don't worry. As soon as he finished speaking, an old man in a white coat, Dr. Leo Lee, carrying a medicine box, walked into the living room. Holly Lamb's father hurriedly stepped forward to welcome the distinguished guest. Dr. Divine Lee, Dr. Leo Lee, we've troubled you. Dr. Leo Lee sighed softly. Regarding Madam's, Mrs. Linda Lamb's, condition, this old man is actually not very confident. I can only try my best. After asking a few questions about Mrs. Linda Lamb's condition, he began to treat her. Shaun King stood aside, observing. He saw Dr. Leo Lee take out acupuncture needles, locate acupoints, and prepare for acupuncture. Shaun King suddenly frowned and hurriedly shouted, "That's not right." Everyone looked at him. Shaun King hurriedly said, "Sir, the first needle shouldn't go into the biweek acupoint." Dr. Leo Lee was furious. He had practiced medicine for decades and treated countless people. Today, his medical skills were being questioned by a mere child. What a humiliation. Ignorant brat, daring to speak nonsense. Get out. Dr. Leo Lee waved his sleeve angrily. Then, he ignored Shaun King and continued to perform acupuncture on Mrs. Linda Lamb. The Lamb family also started to criticize him, but Shaun King paid no attention and quickly ran over, grabbing Dr. Leo Lee's hand as he was performing acupuncture. If you don't know how to treat illnesses, don't pretend you do. This is a basic quality of a doctor. His tender face was serious. He flicked his hand lightly, and Dr. Leo Lee stumbled back a few steps. Just as he was about to scold him, he saw Shaun King holding an acupuncture needle, flicking his fingers, and the needle instantly embedded itself into the lingu acupoint. Dr. Leo Lee was astonished. What? Flying needles? You're so young. How do you know flying needles? Shaun King, with a serious face, ignored him and continued to perform acupuncture with extremely skilled hands, quickly finishing. Shaun King blinked and looked at Mrs. Linda Lamb. Auntie, what do you feel now? Mrs. Linda Lamb smiled. I feel a warmth in my stomach. My abdomen is very hot, very comfortable. Shaun King nodded, smiled, took out a pen and paper, quickly wrote a prescription, and handed it to Dr. Leo Lee. Looking at the beautiful handwriting on the paper, Dr. Leo Lee jumped up as if electrocuted. Snake venom and gentian herb can be combined like this? Little boy, you are truly a divine doctor. The Lamb family stood beside them, stunned, and hurriedly asked about the situation. Dr. Leo Lee patted Holly Lamb's father's shoulder. Rest assured, Madam's condition is gradually recovering. It won't be long before she's completely cured. Brother Lamb, you must thank this little divine doctor. Hearing this, Holly Lamb's father's eyes welled up with tears. He bowed his head and thanked Shaun King. Thank you, little divine doctor, for saving my wife's life. You are our family's benefactor. Holly Lamb and her brother also bowed their heads to thank him. Shaun King blushed and hurriedly said, Quick, stand up. It's nothing. At the same time, he instructed them to take the medicine on time and pay attention to dietary restrictions. At this moment, Dr. Leo Lee, blushing, approached Shaun King. Young friend, your medical skills are superb. If you don't mind, this old man is willing to acknowledge you as my master. Seeing the old man's fervent gaze, Shaun King felt goosebumps, hurriedly waved his hands, and fled from the Lamb family's house. Holly Lamb wanted to thank him properly, but found he was already gone. At this time, in the King villa, driver Lou was kneeling and trembling in the main hall. Stacy King sat on high, unable to hide her anger, sneaking out in a sports car with young Master, and then letting young Master get kidnapped. What kind of work do you do? You get out of here. Leave MO City, the farther the better. No, I'll send you to my second sister's, Captain Riley King's, place for proper re-education. Stacy King was about to go mad. Since when did the King family raise such useless people? Driver Lou lay prostrate on the ground, crying bitterly. Sobi, 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 how can you blame me? Wasn't I forced by young Master? I agreed to get out of here, but to go to second Mrs. Place, that desolate border region. I'm afraid even my life will be hard to keep. Why am I so unlucky? Stacy King suppressed her murderous rage and continued to give orders. Search the entire city for young Master, especially the Yanbei district. Check all cameras. Analyze the kidnapper's characteristics. Compare carefully person by person. We must find young Master immediately. Just then, Shaun King happened to return to the King villa. Seeing a row of luxury cars parked in front of the gate, he thought Seventh Sister Stacy had come home. But the car door opened, and a woman with glasses and long legs, Vivian King, stepped out, followed by a group of elegant middle-aged men. The woman, Vivian King, looked cold, even a little angry. I've already said I won't go to your university to be the president. If there's a problem, go sue me at the World Education Committee. After speaking, she strode towards the King villa. Just as she saw Shaun King running to the gate, she paused slightly, then delightedly hugged him tightly. Little brother, I finally get to meet you. Let sister give you a hug. Shaun King was dazed, about to say something, but was pressed by two mountains to the point of suffocation. Realizing her actions were a bit excessive, Vivian King let go of Shaun King and said, Shaun, I'm your fourth sister, Vivian King. You can call me Sister Vivian. Vivian King introduced herself to her younger brother. Before he could reply, Vivian King picked him up and walked into the villa. As soon as they entered the door, they happened to meet Stacy King leading bodyguards out. Seeing Shaun King in Vivian King's arms, she also breathed a sigh of relief. Fourth sister, why is little brother with you? Stacy asked. Seventh sister, Vivian exclaimed. Entrusting our precious little brother to you is really not reliable at all. All right, I know I was wrong, Stacy conceded. You're the boss now. Whatever you say, naughty sister. The three of them talked and laughed as they returned to the villa. Reaching Vivian King's door, just as she put Shaun King down, Blackie, who was inside, rushed out like a rocket and pounced on him. Vivian King was startled by the sudden appearance of this animal. A dog. Then she directly kicked Blackie, sending it flying 2 meters away. Blackie drew a beautiful parabola in the air and then fell to the ground. Shaun King was horrified. Blackie, are you okay? Vivian King was stunned. This dog is raised by little brother? Then she gave a forced smile, walked over, and asked Shaun King, how was Blackie? Shaun King wasn't angry because he could sense Blackie was fine. The family quickly reconciled. The two older sisters chatted happily on the sofa, while Shaun King watched Pleasant Goat and Big Wolf happily with Blackie, in perfect harmony. After dinner, Shaun King flew into his room. Now, that fourth sister is back. Seventh sister probably won't make me sleep with her anymore. But after cultivating on the bed for a while, he realized he was mistaken. Urgent knocking sounded from outside the door. Shaun King nervously opened the door and saw fourth sister Vivian King walk in, holding a laptop. Little brother, I heard you're scared to sleep alone. Let's sleep together, okay? Vivian King smiled sweetly at him, placed the laptop on the bed, and then naturally got under the covers. Seeing fourth sister typing on the laptop, Shaun King curiously climbed onto the bed and looked at the screen, which was playing an introductory video about M University. Seeing her little brother approach, Vivian King hugged him, then took out her phone, snapped a photo, and posted in the group chat, making the other sisters jealous. Knock, knock, knock. Another knock on the door. Before either of them could speak, the visitor pushed the door open and walked in. Stacy King frowned. She and Vivian King exclaimed almost simultaneously, "Why are you here?" It seemed fourth sister Vivian was determined not to leave. Stacy King, ignoring the tension, lay down next to her little brother, feeling the sharp gazes of her two sisters. Shaun King only felt his head grow bigger. The next morning, Shaun King groggily woke up, washed his face, and sat down at the dining table. After breakfast, Vivian King went for a run, and Stacy King went to the company to handle some work. Finally, he had some free time to himself. So after his two older sisters left, he immediately pulled Blackie and ran to the backyard, heading to the gazebo. Shaun King took out a chi-gathering pill and cultivated with Blackie. He spent the whole morning cultivating. The entire garden was full of vitality under the sunlight. After finishing his cultivation, Shaun King slowly opened his eyes. Sensing his slow progress in chi refining, he couldn't help but sigh. At this rate, when would he ever reach the late stage of chi refining? Even though he had learned the spirit gathering array, which could continuously absorb surrounding spiritual energy into the formation, with his current cultivation level, he couldn't set it up. He decided he must set up an array in a villa to speed up his cultivation once he reached the late chi refining stage. As he was thinking, ring, 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 the iPhone in his pocket rang. Shaun King took it out and answered. Stacy King's voice came from the other end. "Little brother, have you had lunch? Tell your sister Vivian to get you ready. You're attending a party with me this afternoon." A party? Shaun King hung up and led Blackie back to the villa. In the main hall, Vivian King was directing servants to bring a pile of boxes, stacked almost into a mountain, even teetering slightly. Seeing her little brother return, Vivian King took his hand and led him to the mountain of gifts. "Little brother, these are gifts I specially sent over from America." "America? Gifts?" Shaun King's jaw dropped as he stared in amazement at the mountain of gifts. Vivian King opened a box first. Inside were small, remote-controlled robots. Then, she told him to open the rest himself. Thank you, sister." Shaun King happily opened box after box. Vivian King stood beside him, smiling gently at her little brother. These are all statistically the most popular gifts among boys. Another box was opened. Inside was a small sword, its scabbard adorned with gold, exuding an imposing aura. "Wow, what a beautiful sword. I love you the most, Sister Vivian." Vivian King was praised to the point of feeling ecstatic. "Little brother, you really know how to flatter." Box after box was opened. A Rui's scepter, a gemstone-encrusted watch and phone, clothes, shoes. Half an hour later, Shaun King's hands were tired from opening gifts. He looked up and saw there was still half a mountain of gifts left. Annie Lamb arrived, just in time to inform them it was lunchtime. At the dining table, Vivian King teased her little brother. Shaun, are my gifts good? Are you happy? Happy. Sister Vivian is the best. Then reward me with a kiss. Shaun King obediently kissed Vivian King's cheek, making her giggle. After a cheerful lunch, Vivian King got to the main point. Tonight is old Master Cole's 80th birthday banquet. The Cole family in Motto has invited all the prominent families in Motto. The old master's second son and our father were life and death comrades. Therefore, the King family must attend. Only after hearing this did Shaun King realize his father had been a soldier. He was about to ask his sister when their father would return to see him when she cut him off. This time, I have to dress my little brother up handsomely to show those snobs who look down on others. This is my precious little brother. With my protection, let's see who dares to touch my darling. Shaun King understood the underlying meaning in his sister's words, the Chow family and the King family in the capital. That evening, at the Cole family's banquet hall, Vivian King and Stacy King each held one of Shaun King's hands as they entered the grand hall. The King family has arrived. Everyone in the hall looked towards the three walking down the red carpet, whispering about the recently found young master and his two beautiful sisters. Chief Bruno Cole, standing on the second floor, saw the three and a faint smile appeared on his cold face. Passing through the dense crowd, they reached a spacious area. The people standing here were all individuals of wealth or power. At this moment, a man with a scar on his neck approached the two sisters. The man exuded a murderous aura. His eyes were calm and deep, very mysterious. Shaun King could affirm that he had killed people, and quite a few at that. Hello, Uncle Cole. The two sisters greeted the man. Shaun King also breathed a sigh of relief. This man must be Chief Bruno Cole, his father's comrade-in-arms. Chief Bruno Cole looked at the two girls and smiled. You two are becoming more and more sensible. Old King is truly blessed to have such good daughters. I'm even envious. Stacy King covered her mouth and giggled. Vivian King, beside her, quickly waved her hands. Uncle, please, don't praise us anymore. I heard your son passed the entrance exam for Capital University last month. His future is limitless. The three chatted happily. It was then that Chief Bruno Cole noticed the chubby little boy beside them. This must be the King family's boy who was just found, right? I haven't met him before. Uncle, give you a hug. Shaun King looked at Chief Bruno Cole's large build and instinctively resisted. Seeing this, Chief Bruno Cole awkwardly scratched his head. Haha, it seems I scared little Shaun. Speaking of naming Shaun, Old King even discussed it with me back then. All right, Shelby. Chief Bruno Cole called out behind him. A little girl in a white dress slowly walked over. She was about 1.2 meters tall, with a delicate face. She would surely be a beauty in the future. Shelby, take your little brother out to play. Dad has some business to discuss with your sisters. The little girl obediently nodded. After the older sisters and Chief Cole left, the two children stayed behind, sizing each other up. What's your name? The little girl asked, blinking her big eyes, her voice sweet. My name is Shaun King. I'm 5.5 this year. My name is Shelby Cole. I'm 7 years old this year. After a brief introduction, Shaun King wanted to walk around. He had just seen many cakes and drinks outside, and was craving them. He quickly said goodbye to Shelby Cole, but as soon as he stepped out, she chased after him, not letting him run around. You can't go out. For some reason, since cultivating to the mid-chi refining stage, Shaun King felt that peers his age were very childish, including Shelby Cole beside him. So, he turned around and seriously said to her, I want to go out and get some fresh air. If you want to come, then come. After speaking, he turned and walked away. Shelby Cole stomped her foot, huffily chasing after him. Reaching the glass table, Shaun King plopped down directly. Shelby Cole also sat down beside him, resting her chin on her hands, observing the boy. Shaun King paid no attention to her, helping himself to drinks and cakes. His chubby face became even rounder, making him squint his eyes in happiness. Watching Shaun King eat with such relish, Shelby Cole asked doubtfully, Is it that good? This question almost made Shaun King choke on his cream. He swallowed the cream and immediately said to Shelby Cole, Of course, cake and Coke are the best. Shelby Cole tried a piece of cake, stuffing it in her mouth. Delicious? Where? It's too sweet. The little girl quickly took a sip of mineral water, the cloying sweetness feeling very unpleasant. After that, she sat quietly, watching Shaun King eat. 10 minutes passed, and Shaun King's mouth still hadn't stopped chewing. Shelby Cole even suspected if his stomach was bottomless. Finally, after finishing his Coke, Shaun King patted his belly and said to himself, Little tummy, are you full? Little tummy is full. His self-scripted answer made Shelby Cole burst out laughing. As Shaun King jumped off the chair, Shelby Cole grabbed his hand and whispered in his ear, Do you want to go play in the backyard? There are pushcarts there, much more fun than this place. After thinking for a moment, Shaun King nodded. He didn't want to stay at this boring party anymore. Anyway, he was full, and there was nothing else to do. So, Shelby Cole pulled him and ran like the wind to the backyard. The adults in their path hurriedly moved aside. A middle-aged woman couldn't help but scold. Whose child is that? Not looking after them properly, almost bumped into someone. This remark immediately attracted strange looks from everyone, as if looking at a fool. the woman's husband, the boss of a company that had just established itself in motto and was qualified to attend the party, realized his wife had misspoken and quickly covered her mouth. The woman became even angrier, biting her husband's hand hard and cursing loudly in public. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and slapped her. Those two children, one is the little princess of the Cole family, and the other is the young master of the King family. It's fine if they cause trouble at home, but they don't even know restraint here. This scene made everyone point fingers at them. In the end, the two had to leave the Cole family's party. The Cole family's backyard. Tonight, the moon was round, neither too bright nor too dark. Thanks to the decorative lights and spotlights in the yard, the two children could still see clearly. Shaun King excitedly sat on the swing, and Shelby Cole ran behind to push it. The sound of children's laughter echoed in the yard. Tired from playing, the two sat silently on the steps, watching the moon together. Shelby Cole rested her chin on her hands and asked Shaun King, "I are about to start school. What about you?" "School?" Shaun King shook his head. He had just returned home and hadn't registered for school yet. Shelby Cole looked at him in surprise. "You haven't started school yet?" Then she proudly said, "I started kindergarten when I was 4, and now I'm about to enter 2nd grade. Shaun King thought for a moment. It seemed his sister had once said that school would start in September. It was only early August now. There was still a month left. It seemed he had to discuss going to school with his sister when he got home. Otherwise, he would fall behind his peers. But just then, while thinking, Shaun King suddenly sensed an unusual aura, as if targeted by a venomous snake. Not good. He immediately pulled Shelby Cole up and moved upwards. Whoosh! The next second, several silver needles embedded themselves where they had just been sitting, and they were coated with deadly poison. Without time to explain, Shaun King quickly pushed Shelby Cole away. A few more poisonous needles whizzed past. "Quick, go find your sisters." Shelby Cole, terrified, hurriedly ran towards the back door. Whoosh whoosh! A few more poisonous needles shot out, as if the target had shifted to Shelby Cole. Shaun King quickly took out the small sword his sister had given him from a storage ring, and used the scabbard to block the needles. They were already near the back door, and in an instant, Shelby Cole had run into the villa. Using silver needles as a weapon, that person must be nearby, Shaun King thought to himself. His spiritual sense quickly spread out, and the small sword was also drawn from its scabbard. Shaun King advanced step by step, warily observing his surroundings. Finally, his spiritual sense detected a black shadow hiding in a tree. "Want to kill me? Who are you?" The childish voice startled the assassin. But before he could react, Shaun King had already rushed towards him. With a light tap of his foot, his body flew into the air. With just one flip, he landed on a branch in front of the assassin. Shaun King pointed the small sword at the assassin. "Who are you? Why do you want to kill me?" His chubby face exuded a coldness. Master had once said that those who wanted to kill him didn't need to be shown mercy. The assassin said nothing, drew a dagger made of refined steel, and stabbed at the boy. Plop! Up! The small sword pierced straight into the assassin's heart. The assassin's life force gradually drained away. How could this be? Even in death, he couldn't believe he had died at the hands of a child. Shaun King hadn't expected that just a natural reflex would kill the assassin. He pulled out the small sword, his body trembling, his face pale. He gently removed the assassin's mask. It was an unfamiliar middle-aged man. It seemed there were no clues. Suppressing the discomfort in his heart, Shaun King performed a martial technique, releasing a spiritual fire that incinerated the assassin, leaving only a pile of ashes that were blown away by the wind. At the same time, the sound of hurried footsteps came from the back door. The next second, the villa's back door was kicked open, and a group of armed bodyguards rushed into the backyard, followed by Vivian King, Stacy King, and Chief Bruno Cole. The two sisters were panting, their eyes scanning the backyard, constantly calling their brother's name. "Sisters." Shaun King shakily emerged from behind a bush and ran towards his sisters. Vivian King hugged her brother tightly, quickly checking if he was injured. Seeing he was fine, she breathed a sigh of relief. Stacy King tilted her head and asked, "Little brother, what happened just now? Did someone try to attack you?" Shaun King replied weakly, his face full of fear. "Just now, I saw a person in black throwing needles at us. We dodged them. Then I told Sister Shelby to go call you too." The person in black saw Sister Shelby go into the house and ran towards that wall. Chief Bruno Cole's face was ashen. If his elder brother's son had an accident in his house, he would truly have no face to meet the King family. Chief Bruno Cole immediately called 2 teams of bodyguards and personally led them to carefully search the entire backyard. Stacy King also walked to the steps, picked up a silver needle, and examined it closely. She found that apart from the liquid on the tip, there were no other distinguishing features. Damn it! Which assassin uses silver needles as a weapon? It's so hard to guard against. Then Vivian King came to her side and whispered, "How about we ask third sister to send some martial artists to protect our little brother?" Shaun King clearly heard Vivian King say martial artists. Martial artists? People who practice martial arts. He was a little curious. Chief Bruno Cole searched around but found no traces, so he told the bodyguards to continue patrolling the yard. He returned to the front and said to the 3 members of the King family, "It's temporarily safe. I will increase patrol personnel." Dad's birthday banquet is about to begin. Let's go inside. Stacy King and Vivian King nodded, leading Shaun King back to the villa. 2 hours later, the party finally ended. After some conversation, the King family finally left the Cole residence. Chief Bruno Cole and his son, Cole Pingan, saw the guests off. Shelby Cole also held her father's hand and followed. By this time, Shaun King and his sisters were already in the car. Chief Bruno Cole looked at his daughter with a reluctant gaze, staring into the car, and couldn't help but tease, the King family's little boy has charmed my daughter. She can't bear to see you go. The car window wasn't closed, and everyone in the car heard clearly. Stacy King replied, we'll go back and discuss recruiting a son-in-law. Uncle Cole will be our in-law then, ha. Everyone knew this was just a joke, but Shaun King believed it. Does my sister want me to marry Shelby Cole? Not long after, the car quickly returned to the villa. The three got out and went inside. After washing up, Shaun King had just lain down on the bed when his mood became tense again. He silently counted down, but before he finished, his room door was opened. Seeing Vivian King coming to his room to sleep again, his cheerful mood immediately vanished. Then Vivian King lay down and hugged him. Shaun King had already guessed that Stacy King would surely appear next. Sure enough, a few seconds later, a beautiful figure rushed into the room. Stacy King walked in holding a pillow. 3 people lay on one bed, with Shaun King in the middle. It was difficult for him to even move, afraid that if he turned over, he would be hugged by the two. He whispered, sisters, do I have to register for school? Stacy King caressed his face. I've already registered you for kindergarten. I don't want to go to kindergarten. Can I go to elementary school? Vivian King interjected. If you don't build a solid foundation from a young age, your academic path will become increasingly difficult. Shaun King thought carefully. He had already learned all the elementary school knowledge. Even if he went straight to middle school, it would be fine. The learning ability of a chi refining cultivator was very strong, able to read 10 lines at a glance, coupled with a superb memory. Elementary school content was too simple for him. Finally, he coquettishly pleaded with his 2 sisters, eventually making them agree to give him a chance. If he could do first-grade homework tomorrow, he wouldn't have to go to kindergarten. The 3 fell silent. The moon hung high in the sky. The servants also finished their busy day and went to bed. Shaun King looked at his 2 sisters. Although their fragrance was sweet and their skin was warm and supple, it affected his cultivation. So, he gently slipped out and went to the edge of the bed. Then he tiptoed up to the 3rd floor to Stacy King's room. Shaun King secretly rejoiced. He sat on a large bed, swallowed 2 chi-gathering pills, sat cross-legged, and immersed himself in cultivation. While cultivating, a silver light flickered around his body, but suddenly a black gleam flashed and disappeared, as if everything was still normal. The next morning, after Shaun King and Blackie finished cultivating and returned to the villa, he saw his 2 sisters playing chess in the main hall. So he confidently walked to the chessboard, his chubby hand slapping the table. Sisters, I challenge you. Seeing his 2 sisters Lingzhou, Shaun King reminded them, yesterday you 2 promised that if I could do first-grade homework, I could go to elementary school. The 2 nodded. They had indeed promised their little brother. So they had a servant print 2 first-grade tests. The first one was math. Shaun King glanced at it, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Such simple math problems made him want to tear up the paper, feeling like it was an insult to his intelligence. But his 2 sisters saw him not moving his pen and thought he probably couldn't do it. They were about to comfort their little brother when they saw him start writing very quickly. There weren't many questions. 2 minutes later, Shaun King had finished. Before he could even check it, he lowered his head and focused on the Vietnamese language test. The 2 sisters looked at his handwriting in surprise. It was fluid and unrestrained. At this moment, Stacy King even felt that her brother's handwriting was very similar to the calligraphy in her office, which made her a little curious. After finishing both tests, each sister took one to check. Stacy King was amazed. Math, 10 points. Vivian King also said, Vietnamese, 10 points. Then they looked at their little brother with scrutinizing eyes. Shaun King was nervous. Could it be that they discovered something? But the 2 sisters only praised him in unison and gave him a thumbs up. Vivian King smiled. Then we won't go to kindergarten. We'll wait for school to start and go to elementary school. Hearing this, Shaun King jumped for joy. Yay! In 3 days, I'll be an elementary school student. This made him extremely excited. To celebrate him becoming an elementary school student, after lunch, his 2 sisters decided to take him to a nearby amusement park. On the way, they also told him that his 5th sister, Tammy King, a famous star, was on her way home. This filled him with anticipation. So, the 3 of them had a fun day at the amusement park. After returning home and having dinner with his 2 sisters, Shaun King immediately ran upstairs and locked his door. Tonight, he couldn't let his sisters affect his cultivation. Swallowing a chi-gathering pill, he slowly closed his eyes. A month later, every day Shaun King would go out to practice swordsmanship in the morning, cultivate with Blackie in the backyard in the afternoon, and cultivate in his room in the evening, occasionally refining pills. In this month, he had refined more than 10 types of first-grade pills, and his techniques became increasingly proficient. Later, he even refined the youth-retaining pill, a high-grade first-grade pill, silently planning to give one to each of his sisters. Not only that, his spiritual power also broke through to the late chi refining stage. Early the next morning, Shaun King opened his eyes. A tangible spiritual energy shot out from him, and a layer of dirt also appeared on his body. After performing a cleansing spell, he went to the mirror to observe himself. After the breakthrough, he exuded a special spiritual aura, looking like an immortal boy at first glance. His skin was also fairer and smoother. But seeing this scene, Shaun King frowned, afraid that his enhanced handsomeness would make his sisters go crazy. Sighing, he carefully went downstairs, found no one in the main hall, and tiptoed towards Blackie. Seeing Blackie still sleeping soundly, he suddenly woke it up. Then, before it could bark, he covered its mouth and made a shush gesture. Blackie nodded, indicating it understood. This month, Blackie's intelligence had increased a lot, perhaps due to cultivating with Shaun King. Moreover, its size was now as big as a Tibetan Mastiff. He and Blackie quietly sneaked out of the villa. But just as Shaun King gently closed the villa door, a clear female voice suddenly rang out. "Little brother, where are you going?" Shaun King jumped in fright, truly regretting not using his spiritual sense to scan his surroundings first. He awkwardly turned his head and saw Vivian King. "Little brother, why do you get cuter every day?" she exclaimed. She was about to pull her little brother to play, but Shaun King quickly diverted her attention. "Sister Vivian, when is Sister Stacy coming home?" Vivian King touched her earlobe and replied, "Sister Stacy probably won't be back until noon. She has a meeting this afternoon, so she won't be home for lunch." Shaun King nodded and, while she wasn't paying attention, led Blackie and ran out of the villa like the wind. Vivian King wanted to stop him, but her little brother ran too fast, and she couldn't catch up, only able to watch his retreating back with a helpless smile. Reaching the backyard, Shaun King jumped for joy, while Blackie looked at him as if he were an idiot. Then he took out his small sword and began his daily practice. After finishing his morning cultivation, he and Blackie returned to the villa from the backyard. At this time, Vivian King was holding a cartoon backpack and constantly stuffing things into it. Seeing this, Shaun King curiously walked over and asked, "Sister Vivian, what are you doing?" But Vivian King pretended to be secretive and asked back, "Do you know what day tomorrow is?" Shaun King shook his head. He hadn't paid attention to the calendar recently, so of course, he didn't know what day tomorrow was. Vivian King smiled. "Tomorrow you go to school. I'm preparing your backpack for you." "Huh, school's starting." Shaun King didn't expect time to pass so quickly. He had been home for a month already. Thinking about having to go to school tomorrow, he started to feel anxious. Vivian King continued, "Little brother, don't worry, you'll study at the elementary school affiliated with Motto University, near home." But she didn't tell him that she was currently a professor at Motto University. Shaun King nodded, his anxious mood gradually calming down. The next morning, Shaun King rarely came downstairs for breakfast first. Annie Lamb had already prepared hot milk and bread. A little later, his two sisters, also dressed neatly, came downstairs for breakfast. After breakfast, the group prepared to go out. Shaun King looked at the large crowd behind him, speechless. He turned his head and said to Stacy King, "Sister Stacy, I'm just going to school. I can go by myself. Why did you tell these bodyguards to follow?" Stacy King pinched her little brother's cheek and said indulgently, "Little brother, it's your first day of school. What's wrong with us taking you?" Unable to sway his sister, Shaun King had no choice but to let them follow. With so many people, they had to take 5 cars. Shaun King helplessly carried his backpack, surrounded by his sisters, and went to school. Vroom vroom. A Maserati Gran Turismo led the way, followed by a line of Kians. The convoy headed towards the elementary school affiliated with Motto University, attracting countless gazes along the way. Soon, the convoy arrived at the school gate. This scene attracted everyone's attention because the school gate was too crowded. The cars stopped near the crowd. Everyone got out, led by the 2 sisters and Shaun King's personal bodyguard, followed by 2 burly bodyguards in black suits. Noisy. Stacy King snorted coldly, seemingly very dissatisfied with the crowded environment. If she had known it would be like this, she would have taken a helicopter straight into the school. Vivian King was not annoyed at all and calmly ordered, "Clear the way." The 2 bodyguards received the order and lined up neatly, advancing towards the school gate. Shaun King's personal bodyguard led the way, clearing a path. The others widened the passage. The 3 followed behind, much more comfortably. Soon, they reached the school gate, just as it opened to welcome new students. The school gate slowly opened. Upon entering the school, Vivian King immediately separated from the group, saying she wanted to find the principal to talk. Shaun King's class was 1A. Under Stacy King's guidance, the group went to the classroom. They must have arrived early, as there were only 2 students and their parents in the classroom at this time. Shaun King chose a seat in the 3rd row, which had a good view and was in the middle. The 2 students happened to be his desk mates. Clearly, the parents all had the same idea. The parents of the other 2 students saw their imposing group with more than a dozen bodyguards behind them, and greeted Stacy King somewhat timidly. Stacy King smiled in response. After arranging everything, Stacy King also had to leave the school. Before leaving, she instructed her little brother, "If you're wronged in any way, you must tell me. I'll pick you up at the school gate after school." Shaun King nodded seriously and made an okay gesture to Stacy King. His adorable expression made the parents beside them melt. They really wanted to kidnap him and take him home. Stacy King reluctantly patted her little brother's head, then led the bodyguards away from the school. Not long after, the classroom was filled with boys and girls of the same age as Shaun King. Many children, new to school, didn't want to come and were crying, demanding to go home. The noise annoyed him. At this moment, the boy sitting next to him proactively greeted Shaun King. "Hello, my name is Todd Doe. I'm 6 years old this year." The other desk mate was a very innocent and cute little girl. She also greeted the two. "Hello, my name is Ivy Dean. I'm also 6 years old." Although they didn't know each other, the three quickly started chatting animatedly. Todd Doe was chubby and smiled, revealing a missing front tooth. Ivy Dean was very cute, just a bit quiet, mostly listening to the other two talk. Not long after, a middle-aged female teacher walked onto the podium and greeted everyone. The first day of school, the whole morning was not for lessons, mainly for everyone to get acquainted and distribute textbooks. It's worth mentioning that Ms. Laura, the class teacher, directly appointed Shaun King as the class monitor. That noon, the elementary school affiliated with Motto University had lunch in the cafeteria, so there was no need to go home. Shaun King and Todd Doe went to lunch together. Shaun King originally thought he ate a lot, but he didn't expect Todd Doe beside him to eat 3 plates of rice. No wonder he was so chubby. It turned out he ate a lot. After lunch, the two walked around school. Suddenly, Shaun King sensed the aura of bodyguards. His expression stiffened. Turning his head, he saw the bodyguards sent by his second sister, Captain Riley King, wearing security uniforms, standing not far away, staring at him. Is this a bodyguard infiltrating the school? Oh well, I'll pretend I don't see them, Shaun King thought to himself. Then the two went to the supermarket and bought a large bag of snacks. When Shaun King took out his phone to pay, not only Todd Doe, but also the supermarket owner was stunned because school rules stipulated that phones were not allowed. While the supermarket owner was still dazed, Shaun King had already paid and left. Todd Doe said worriedly, "Shaun, the school doesn't allow phones. If the teacher finds out, your parents will be called." "Called parents?" Shaun King swallowed at the potato chip, puzzled. "My sister told me to bring my phone. She said it's for easy contact. Anyway, listening to my sister is right." He didn't think much more about it. The two stored the remaining snacks in their desks, making the other children envious. Todd Doe suddenly wanted to go to the bathroom and pulled Shaun King to run to the restroom. In the boys' restroom, a group of 6th graders was squatting on the steps, smoking, occasionally glancing at the students who came in. As soon as Shaun King entered the restroom, he smelled the strong, unpleasant odor of cigarettes. He frowned, glancing at the upperclassmen squatting there. Unexpectedly, his gaze fell on a blonde-haired bully who was smoking. Noticing his gaze, the bully shouted unpleasantly, "Hey kid, what are you looking at?" Not convinced, he yelled in front of everyone, feeling very imposing. Shaun King ignored this idiot, treating him as if he were barking. Seeing the little boy ignore him, the bully immediately got angry. "Hey, who said you could leave?" He blocked Shaun King's path. The few guys squatting behind also surrounded the two. This scene almost made Todd Doe cry. Shaun King saw this and said coldly, 3 seconds, get out of my sight." 3. The bully laughed. He didn't expect to be threatened by a little kid. 2. He sneered. Hurry up. I want to see how you make me disappear." 1. As soon as he finished speaking, Shaun King quickly reached out, grabbed his collar, and then flung him hard. He flew straight into a urinal, covered in a foul smell. "Ouch!" The bully roared in pain. "Get this kid. Beat him to death." 5 or 6 upperclassmen simultaneously reached out to grab Shaun King. But just a minute later, he and Todd Doe walked out of the restroom and headed toward the classroom. In an instant, shocking news spread throughout the elementary school. The 6th grade bully, Hank Zhang, was beaten by a 1st grader. Countless students whispered, "Did you hear? Hank Zhang was beaten by a 1st grader and covered in urine in the restroom." At this time, Shaun King, the perpetrator, was already sitting in class, starting his lesson. But the content was too simple, and he wasn't interested, so he lay down on his desk and slept. Seeing this, the Vietnamese language teacher was so angry her chest heaved. The whole afternoon, Shaun King was asleep. Finally, it was time to go home. Ivy Dean, carrying her backpack, gently shook him awake and told him school was over. Shaun King rubbed his sleepy eyes. School's over? So fast. He yawned, put on his backpack, and walked to the school gate. The 2 bodyguards behind him also took off their security uniforms, changed into black suits, and silently followed their young master. However, as soon as Shaun King stepped out of the school gate, he was blocked by a group of motorcycle-riding delinquents, led by a chubby boy. Beside him was the blonde-haired bully whom he had specially cared for today. The chubby boy pointed at Shaun King, who was carrying his backpack, and asked the bully in disbelief, "This kid beat you? Are you kidding me?" Hank Zhang affirmed, "Bro, I'm not kidding. This kid, it's hard." The chubby boy was an 8th grader, also the big brother. Hank Zhang diligently flattered. Every time Hank Zhang got into a fight, he would help out. But this time, hitting a chubby little kid, he couldn't bring himself to do it. "Hank Zhang, you're getting more and more useless." Hearing this, Hank Zhang clenched his fists, seemingly having made up his mind. "Big bro Kevin, help me this one time. My entire week's allowance is yours, okay?" Fatty Kevin thought for a moment, saw it was a good deal, and, along with 7 other middle school students, surrounded Shaun King. Shaun King sighed. Do you have to be so serious? Fatty Kevin said arrogantly. We have a rule not to hit the elderly or bully children, but if you embarrass my little brother, don't blame us. After speaking, he waved his hand, and 2 middle school students immediately threw punches, intending to hit Shaun King. Instantly, 2 tall figures suddenly appeared behind him. Thump! The 2 middle school students flew out, rolled on the ground several times, and finally curled up like shrimp, groaning. Fatty Kevin's expression changed as he looked at the 2 tall figures. He only saw 2 bodyguards nearly 2 meters tall, their muscles bulging, making their suits look like they were about to explode. The middle school students in front of them were like little chicks, especially their eyes, fierce and terrifying, like demons wanted to kill. Fatty Kevin immediately bowed 90 degrees, apologized profusely, and said it was Hank Zhang who had sought him out. After speaking, he hurriedly got on his motorcycle and fled, disappearing in a blink. Hank Zhang was stunned. Immediately after, the 2 bodyguards placed their hands on his shoulders, their sharp eyes staring at him. Thump! Hank Zhang knelt on the ground, constantly apologizing to Shaun King, saying he wouldn't dare do it again and begging him for forgiveness. At this moment, Shaun King walked over and gently said to him, Be a good kid in the future. Don't smoke and fight all day. Then he led the 2 bodyguards away. This scene left the students who were leaving school staring in amazement. This little boy is too formidable. On the way, Shaun King finally had a chance to observe the 2 bodyguards closely. He heard Stacy King say that his second sister, Captain Riley King, was a soldier, so these 2 bodyguards must also be soldiers. Embarrassingly, he had never heard them speak. So, he turned his head and asked, Uncles, what is your relationship with my second sister? Embarrassingly, he had never heard them speak. So, he turned his head and asked, Uncles, what is your relationship with my second sister? General, Shaun King was once again amazed. How come every sister is so formidable? Doesn't that mean I can just lie flat and coast? He casually glanced to the side of the road and happened to see Stacy King's car. Vivian King smiled gently, hugged her little brother, and asked with concern, How was your first day of school? So, the 2 chatted happily as they returned to the villa. Arriving home, Shaun King suddenly felt cheerful. He put down his backpack and plopped down in front of the library, turning on the TV. But he saw that it was broadcasting special news. Shaun King wasn't interested in the news and directly changed the channel. Unexpectedly, after changing several channels, it was still the same special news. Not only at his house, but all TVs, phones, and computers in Mado were broadcasting the same news. He could only watch helplessly. Mado will host a grand birthday party on October 9th. A mysterious tycoon is spending $10 billion to organize the party of the century. The party includes an all-night fireworks display. This mysterious tycoon will issue 1,000 invitations to children whose birthdays fall on that day to participate in the birthday party. How to participate? Scan the QR code for a lottery draw. Winners will receive an exquisite gift and can bring up to 3 family members to the party. After watching the news, Shaun King was also amazed. Today was also his birthday. Doesn't that mean I also have a chance to participate in the party? So, he quickly took out his phone to participate, thinking that if he won, he would take Vivian King and Stacy King with him. He quickly took out his phone, opened WeChat, scanned the QR code, filled in his personal information, and the web page showed, waiting for results. At this time, Stacy King also finished work and returned to the villa. Entering the house, she happened to see her little brother sitting on the sofa, furtively looking at his phone. After thinking for a moment, Stacy King patted Shaun King's head and smiled mysteriously. Then she went to find Vivian King to discuss important matters. Shaun King patiently stared at his phone screen. Ding! The phone suddenly showed a notification. Congratulations, little Shaun King. You have won an invitation to the birthday party on October 9th. The invitation will be sent to your shipping address within 3 working days. Yay! Shaun King jumped up from the sofa, grinning from ear to ear. A little later, the 3 siblings began to eat dinner. At the dining table, Shaun King happily told his sisters that he had won a prize. He could take his sisters to the party, but his 2 sisters didn't seem surprised at all, just smiling gently at their little brother. After dinner, all 3 went upstairs to rest. In the bedroom on the 2nd floor, Shaun King didn't continue cultivating. Yesterday, after entering the late chi refining stage, he believed he had the ability to refine spiritual artifacts. He had previously bought a piece of black gold, or that he hadn't used yet. He walked over to the alchemy furnace and lifted it with one hand. The 150 kilograms furnace looked like he was lifting a mountain with ease. After a whole night of hard work, early the next morning, Shaun King was still sitting cross-legged by the alchemy furnace. Inside the furnace, a slender flying sword was levitating. There was also an unused piece of black gold spirit iron, which he could later use to forge a low-grade storage ring for his sister. After a night of forging, the flying sword had taken shape. Only the final step remained. Shaun King raised his hand and directly used his spiritual energy to make a cut on his palm. Fresh blood quickly flowed out. He quickly dripped the blood onto the flying sword, and then the wound healed rapidly. As soon as the flying sword touched his blood, it vibrated and the sound of the sword hummed and echoed. The body of the sword seemed to be sublimated, erupting with a powerful energy. Boom! A loud explosion echoed throughout the King family villa, like a grenade exploding. Quickly, his room door was surrounded. A maid whispered, "Why does this scene feel so familiar?" Stacy King's face darkened as she asked Auntie Lamb, "What's wrong? Why did my little brother's room explode?" Auntie Lamb twisted the doorknob, but found the door was locked from the inside. She hurriedly ran downstairs to get the spare key. At this time, Vivian King also groggily came downstairs and asked everyone what was happening. Stacy King covered her face and sighed softly, telling Vivian King, "There was an explosion in little brother's room. I don't know what happened." Vivian King immediately sobered up and asked in amazement, "What? Little brother exploded?" Stacy King slapped her arm and repeated with a serious face, "There was an explosion in little brother's room. I don't know what happened." At this time, Auntie Lamb had retrieved the key and opened the door. A thick cloud of black smoke rushed out, making everyone cough. When the smoke cleared a bit, everyone carefully stepped into the room. In the hazy smoke, there was a small figure, none other than Shaun King. At this moment, he was covered in black soot, his hair standing on end. Seeing so many people in his room, he scratched his head and gave everyone an awkward smile. People could only see his bright white teeth. The scene was truly tragic. Sisters, the alchemy furnace exploded. In the bathroom, Shaun King carefully took a hot bath. The alchemy furnace had exploded. Outwardly, he didn't seem sad, but in reality, his heart was aching. His only alchemy furnace had been blown up by him. Thinking of this, he sadly dunked his head into the bathtub, blowing bubbles. Blah, blah. After finishing his bath, Shaun King didn't rush out. The flying sword had just been forged. To prevent his sisters from discovering it, he quickly put it away. Unexpectedly, before he could put it into his storage ring, the flying sword entered his sea of consciousness. Now, with a thought, the flying sword appeared in front of him. The sword was about 3 feet long, its body black and gold, inlaid with gold patterns. The hilt was made of brass alloy, exuding a nimble and mysterious aura, like an immortal sword fallen to the mortal world. Shaun King nodded. This domineering sword looks pretty good. At least he was very satisfied. Then he said to the flying sword, "Since you were forged from black gold spirit iron, and your color is also black and gold, your name will be Little White." The flying sword bent its body as if protesting. Then, refusing his control, it carved 2 characters, Golden Crow, on its pommel. Shaun King suddenly realized. So the flying sword wanted the name Golden Crow. Although he was very reluctant, under the strong request of the flying sword, he had to give up the name Little White, silently despising this tattered sword for having no taste. Before he could learn more about the flying sword, Auntie Lamb urged him to go eat breakfast and go to school. Putting away the Golden Crow, Shaun King went downstairs for breakfast. After some commotion, Shaun King sat in Vivian King's car and went to school. On the second day of school, there were still many parents sending their children to school. Shaun King got out of Vivian King's car, put on his backpack, said goodbye to his sister, and ran into the school. Returning to the classroom and putting his backpack in his desk, Shaun King immediately slumped onto his desk and slept. The students around him were all engrossed in reading their textbooks. Only he was out of place. Ring, ring, ring. The bell for class rang. The Vietnamese language teacher walked onto the podium holding a textbook. But as soon as she entered the door, she noticed Shaun King sleeping soundly. Anger suddenly rose in her heart. "Shaun King, wake up for me." Shaun King groggily stood up and asked the teacher, "What's wrong, teacher?" The teacher frowned and said coldly, "The ancient poem we learned yesterday. Recite it for me. If you can't, you'll copy it 10 times as punishment." Shaun King yawned and fluently recited Quiet Night Thoughts. After reciting, he even specifically translated the meaning and explained the background of its creation. Although he slept through class every day, elementary school exercises couldn't stump him. The classmates looked on in a daze. The teacher was also startled and could only wave her hand, telling him to sit down and listen to the lecture. After school, just as Shaun King was about to go out to buy snacks, the classroom door was surrounded by a group of students. He spread out his spiritual sense and actually found a familiar person at the door, Shelby Cole. "Hey!" Shaun King quietly shouted behind the little girl, making her scream too. He stood beside her, laughing heartily. "Shaun King, you're so annoying," Shelby Cole said angrily. She had only come to say hello. The two chatted for a while, and then Shelby Cole left, followed by a group of underlings. Only then did Shaun King realize, Sister Shelby has so many underlings? Why don't I have any? After buying snacks at the supermarket, Shaun King returned to class to continue studying. During class, his mind wandered. He had learned all this first-grade knowledge long ago. Later, he could go to the library to borrow some books on solutions. So, after lunch, he dragged Todd Doe to the school library. After some searching, Shaun King was holding 6 books, each 8 centimeters thick. Todd Doe looked at the 6 books in his hands with a complicated expression, muttering, "I obviously know every word, so why don't I understand it?" Then the two went downstairs. Shaun King placed the 6 thick books on the librarian's desk. The librarian looked at him, puzzled, and asked, 5 years of exam preparation, 3 years of university entrance exams, the complete Sherlock Holmes. "Don't joke, kid. You won't understand these. Take those comic books over there. After speaking, the librarian kindly pointed to the comic book shelf on the first floor. However, Shaun King shook his head, insisting on borrowing these books. Finally, the two returned to class carrying the books. The whole afternoon, Shaun King studied the books he had just borrowed, and the knowledge in his head grew more and more. But in Tado's eyes, at the speed he was flipping through the pages, 2 seconds per page, what could he possibly understand? When it was time to go home, Shaun King happily put on his backpack and walked to the school gate. Senior Frank and Junior Finn still leisurely followed their young master. At this time, many students were gathered around the school gate. A tall, aloof woman was leaning against the front of a Maserati, looking at the crowd as if searching for something. Beside her, a woman wearing glasses, with a sexy figure and an elegant aura, was leaning against a Rolls-Royce, also staring at the crowd leaving school. Beside them, not a few little boys had sparkling eyes, staring at the 2 sports cars, wishing they could touch these handsome vehicles. Suddenly, the 2 women regained their composure and simultaneously called towards the school gate. "Little brother, come to me. Little brother, come to sister." The gazes of the others immediately fell on Shaun King. At this moment, he only felt his face burning. So embarrassing. Why did Sister Vivian and Sister Stacy park their cars blocking the school gate? Then he coughed twice, hesitating between the 2 sisters. Which one to choose? The other one will definitely be very sad. What should I do? Seeing her little brother hesitate, Vivian King called out again, "Little brother, didn't you say Sister Vivian is the best? Hurry up and come to Sister Vivian." Shaun King hesitated for a moment and walked towards Vivian King. Stacy King stomped her foot angrily and also said to her little brother, "Little brother, do you remember who brought you home? It was 7th sister. 4th sister has brought you home several times already. You won't even let 7th sister bring you once." Saying this, Stacy King looked pitiful, her eyes welling up. The little boys around couldn't bear it anymore. They really want to beat this heartless little brother to death. Fine, little brother doesn't like 7th sister. Go to her. I'll go home by myself. Shaun King felt guilty. Finally, he turned and walked to Stacy King's side, his chubby hand tugging at her clothes, coquettishly saying, "I like 7th sister. 7th sister, don't be sad. I'll go with you." Then he turned and said to Vivian King, "Today I want to go home in 7th sister's car." "Sorry, sister." As soon as Shaun King got into the car, Stacy King looked at Vivian King with a triumphant expression, then stepped on the gas and drove away from the school with a roar. Vivian King waved her hand angrily. That annoying 7th sister, pretending to be pitiful again to win over little brother. I have to learn more in the future. Via room, the Rolls-Royce started kicking up dust as it left the school. The students watching felt a pang of envy. But on the opposite side of the school, 2 mysterious people were sitting in a car, quietly observing this scene. Then the car slowly drove away, heading west. As for Shaun King, he sat in the passenger seat. On the way, the 2 siblings chatted very happily. He even gave his sister a peck on the cheek, which made Stacy King smile from ear to ear, her heart filled with sweetness. Returning to the villa, Shaun King wanted to watch TV, but the library channel was still replaying that same news. He couldn't stand it anymore and blurted out, "Is this TV controlled by someone to only play this one piece of news?" But he didn't know that this was because a mysterious tycoon had spent 50 million yuan to buy out all the city's television channels just to replay this news. Moreover, all media companies in Motto had received a large contract to push the Motto birthday party on October 9th hot topic to the top. Not only that, all cake shops and pastry chefs in the city simultaneously received high-priced invitations, hoping they could participate in baking for the party on October 9th. There were also designers, makeup artists, and sound technicians, each offered 10,000 yuan per day. All professions were shaken, wondering which tycoon was organizing such a lavish birthday for their child. In the villa, Shaun King was annoyed because he couldn't watch TV. Seeing Blackie still sleeping soundly, he wanted to drag it along to test the power of the Golden Crow. Blackie didn't want to go and try to break hard, but it was useless. The difference in strength was too great. Reaching the backyard, to avoid being seen, Shaun King immediately spread out his spiritual sense, covering a radius of 100 meters. Then, with a thought, the Golden Crow appeared in front of him and Blackie. The sword's body glittered with golden light. Shaun King excitedly grasped the flying sword. An aura of looking down on the world flashed, and then disappeared. Blackie lay prostrate on the ground, whimpering. It could feel the destructive power hidden in this sword. Shinkingu manzokuge ni ken no dou nareta ato, kenjutsu o tameshite mita. Tachimachi ni wa zentai ga are kuruu風に包まれ、彼の気迫も絶えず高まっていった。ほんの数秒で、彼の気迫は頂点に達した。西風献血、大意識、落星、ショーン、キングは叫び、そして剣を空に振り上げた。剣は稲妻のように速く、剣の後は空に登り続け、そして爆発した。この時、ラムおばさんは陶器の壺を吹きながら窓の外を見ていた。昼日中に花火を打ち上げている家があるなんて、奇妙だわ。そう言って、彼女は陶器の壺を吹き続けた。ショーン、キングはゴールデンクローを抱きしめ、その威力に驚愕した。昨日の剣技とは比べ物にならないほど強力だった。さらに、ゴールデンクローは本当に鋭く、 石を豆腐のように切ることができた。最後に、彼は飛行剣の最も有用なスキル、飛行を試してみたかった。その後、彼は慎重に飛行剣の上に立った。心は非常に興奮していた。しっかりと立った後、彼は飛行剣を操縦して飛び上がり、徐々に剣で飛行する感覚に慣れていった。わあ、ブラッキー、見て、僕も飛べるよ。この時、ショーン、キングはもはや恐れていなかった。飛行速度と高度の制御もますます大きくなっていった。ヒュー、風を切る音とともに、ショーン、キングはゴールデンクローの上に立ち、空を自由に飛び回り、飛行の感覚を楽しんでいた。楽しい。彼は空で笑い、時々体を回転させた。ラムおばさんはお茶のセットを置いて困惑した。彼女はご主人様の笑い声が聞こえたような気がした。地面に降りると、ショーン、キングはゴールデンクローをしまい、満面の笑みを浮かべた。飛行剣の速度は車よりもはるかに速いと断言できた。さらに、この飛行剣はただの中級の第一級霊機であり、その威力はすでにこれほど強力だった。師匠から伝授された記憶の中には、伝説の戦機さえあった。戦機がどのようなものか、非常に強力なのかどうか、彼は知らなかった。ブラッキーは主人が戻ってきたのを見て喜んで彼の周りを走り回った。空が暗くなってきたのを見て、彼とブラッキーはゆっくりと別荘に戻った。簡単な夕食の後、ショーン、キングは自分の部屋に戻った。ビビアン、キングは彼に入浴するように注意した。彼は、はいと適当に答えた。その後、彼はベッドに飛び乗った。今、彼はもう入浴する必要はなかった。冷気が体を循環し、汚れが付着することはできなかった。簡単に片付けた後、彼は修練に没頭し始めた。The next morning, the King family villa received a special package. Hearing Annie Lamb explain the origin of the package, Shaun King immediately guessed it was the invitation to the birthday party. Shaun King hurriedly opened the package on the table. Opening the wooden box, the first thing that caught his eye was a golden envelope. This was the invitation to the party. Beside it was a crushed diamond bracelet and the location and notes for the party. Stacey King picked up the bracelet and exclaimed, "So beautiful." The silver bracelet was inlaid with 52 crushed blue diamonds, looking very beautiful. Shaun King carefully put the invitation in his room, then gave the bracelet to Annie Lamb for safekeeping. After breakfast, he had to go to school again. Annie Lamb was about to prepare his backpack when she picked it up and felt something was wrong. It seemed his backpack was very heavy today, even several times heavier than yesterday. She curiously unzipped the backpack and took out several thick books. Annie Lamb looked at the book she had just taken out, pondering 5 years of exam preparation, 3 years of university entrance exams, CET 6 English vocabulary life. Annie Lamb was both puzzled and confused. Why did the young master bring these books home? She ran to report to Vivian King. Vivian King was also startled by this news. According to her, her little brother couldn't possibly understand these books. Could it be that little brother has other secrets? Today was Friday, and there would be a 2-day break tomorrow, so all the students were happy. At the school gate, Stacey King brought Shaun King, said goodbye to him, and hurried to work. Back in the classroom, the students were excitedly discussing the news on TV about the birthday party, as if they were looking forward to it. Shaun King also curiously approached to listen. After listening for a while, he suddenly understood. It turned out they were talking about the invitations to the birthday party. Moreover, a student in the 3rd grade had also been invited, and he sat back in his seat. At this time, Todd was also discussing the birthday party news with Ivy Dean. Shaun King plopped down between the two and took out the thick CET 6 English vocabulary book from his backpack. Seeing him arrive, Todd pulled him into the conversation. Shaun King, who do you think is organizing the birthday party, and for whom? Shaun King didn't know either. Anyway, on that day, if you participate in the activities, you can eat free cake and get special gifts. Maybe some tycoon is organizing a birthday party for his daughter. If you go, you can eat free cake. You and Ivy should go too. Todd laughed heartily and agreed. He loved to eat, especially sweets. Shaun King then pulled the two closer and whispered, "Actually, I have an invitation to the birthday party. I'll even get a gift then." Huh? The two were astonished. It was said that these invitations were very hard to get. They didn't expect Shaun King to have one. The invitation at TV said only 1,000 exist in all of Motto, distributed sparsely. It's very rare to get one. Ivy Dean looked at Shaun King suspiciously. "Can you prove you have an invitation?" "No proof means you're lying." Shaun King didn't hide it, took out his phone, and opened the prize-winning message. Wow! The two's exclamations echoed throughout the classroom, attracting other students to gather around. Seeing Shaun King holding a phone, everyone was surprised. After all, the school didn't allow phones. Everyone surrounded him, looking at his prize-winning message with envious expressions. "Shaun King, can you take me with you? I want to go too." "Yeah, we all want to go, but we don't have invitations." Shaun King said proudly, "No way. I also want to take my 2 older sisters." That means there's only 1 spot left. He looked at the envious Todd beside him and had already decided in his heart to take his good friend. Class monitor is so stingy. Yeah. Too bad I couldn't enter the draw. If I did, maybe I would have one too. Along with the students' complaints, Ms. Laura also walked into the classroom. Seeing the teacher arrive, the students immediately returned to their seats. Not long after, two shocking pieces of news spread throughout the school. The first was that Shaun King had two tycoon older sisters who drove sports cars to pick him up from school yesterday. The second was that Shaun King actually had an invitation to the birthday party on October 9th. From then on, Shaun King became a celebrity at the elementary school affiliated with Motto University. There were even many older female students who came to peek at him. His adorable appearance made those little girls go crazy, constantly coming to find him play. There was even a second-grade older sister who gave him a love letter. This gave him a headache, truly regretting causing all this. When it was time to go home, Shaun King ran like the wind to the school gate. But when he reached the gate, he looked around everywhere but couldn't see his two sisters. Did my sisters forget me? So, he dejectedly stood by the roadside with his backpack, momentarily not knowing what to do. What should I do? Should I summon the golden crow to fly home? Beep beep. At this moment, a car horn suddenly sounded. A black BMW drove towards him. Then, a mysterious man wearing sunglasses got out of the car and stood in front of him. The man smiled kindly, walked up to him, and squatted down. Are you Shaun King? Your sisters aren't picking you up today. They asked me to take you to dinner. Shaun King was suspicious, feeling he greatly resembled the human trafficker his teacher had talked about. So, he took a step back and called his sister. After hanging up, he finally trusted the man in front of him. The two got into the car. Shaun King discovered there was also a woman wearing sunglasses in the car. Although she deliberately concealed her appearance, under his spiritual sense, he could still see her exquisite features. Soon, the group arrived at a famous barbecue restaurant. Entering a private room, Shaun King obediently sat on a chair, his legs dangling. The woman quietly observed him. At this moment, Shaun King couldn't help but ask, "Pretty sister, why are you covering your face?" The word sister startled her. She shyly explained, "I'm used to it." Her voice was very sweet and clear, sounding like a young girl's. Then the woman proactively chatted with him. She asked him how his sisters found him, how he lived before, and if he was happy. Shaun King didn't act sad, just calmly recounted what he had experienced. From being abandoned by his parents and adopted by Grandpa Joe, to Grandpa Joe's death, having to live alone, relying on begging to survive, living under a dirty bridge, sleeping on a tattered blanket someone had thrown away. When the story ended, tears flowed from behind the woman's sunglasses. Shaun King saw this and flusteredly said to the woman, "Pretty sister, why are you crying? Did my story make you sad? Don't be sad. My current two sisters love me very much and care about me a lot. I'm very happy." But the woman only patted Shaun King's head and gently told him she was going to the restroom for a moment. Entering the restroom, Tammy King took off her sunglasses. Her beautiful face was already soaked with tears. She was the top female star in Huaxia, Tammy King, and also Shaun King's fifth sister. She had missed her little brother very much. Knowing about her little brother's difficult life before made her heart ache even more. But now was not the time for them to acknowledge each other. She silently swore to organize an unforgettable birthday party for her little brother when they did. Then she regained her composure, put on her sunglasses, and returned to the private room. After dinner, the man drove Shaun King back to the King family villa. He happily waved goodbye to the two and ran into the house. But when he got home, he found the atmosphere in the house a bit strange. As soon as he entered the villa's main hall, a group of people looked at him, including his two sisters and their imposing uncle, Chief Bruno Cole. It was just that everyone's expression was not good. When Vivian King saw her little brother return, her cold face softened. At this moment, everyone was discussing important matters, so she instructed Annie Lamb to take the young master back to his room. As soon as Shaun King returned to the second floor, he immediately spread out his spiritual sense, enveloping the people downstairs. Then he heard, "The border is unstable." Dad led troops into the border. As a result, he was assassinated by a martial artist at night. Today, he has to fly to the capital for treatment. Mom will also go with Dad. Shaun King retracted his spiritual sense, his young face flushed. Those hateful martial artists, daring to hurt Dad. He didn't cultivate or sleep all night, worried about his father. To be able to help his family sooner, early the next morning, he left a letter and went out with Senior Frank and Junior Finn. This panicked Annie Lamb, who hurriedly took the letter to find Stacy King. On the other side, under Shaun King's guidance, the three arrived at Holly Lamb's house. A moment later, Holly Lamb's father and mother also came out of the house to greet the three. This time, he came to ask Holly Lamb if there was an alchemy furnace nearby, and, by the way, to give her mother acupuncture. After the acupuncture, he also told Holly Lamb about the main matter. Hearing that Shaun King was looking for an alchemy furnace, Holly Lamb was surprised, but after thinking for a moment, she still told him that there was an alchemy furnace at the Xianyan Taoist temple. Shaun King frowned. That furnace was bought. It's broken. After thinking for a moment, she suddenly remembered a story she had heard. It was said that before Master Wallace of Xianyan passed away, he had an alchemy furnace, but it was lost during a battle with a demon. Later, Taoist priests of subsequent generations made a fake furnace and placed it in the Xianyan Taoist temple. Hearing this, Shaun King's eyes lit up. Doesn't that mean Master Wallace's real alchemy furnace is still at the Xianyan Taoist temple? Holly Lamb shook her head. She didn't know what happened after that. Having obtained this information, Shaun King immediately led Senior Frank and hurriedly went to the Xianyan Taoist temple. In the car, he was extremely excited. He had thought there were no more alchemy furnaces, but unexpectedly, there was a chance. Not long after, they arrived at the Xianyan Taoist temple. In the main hall, Shaun King went straight to the point and asked where Master Wallace's alchemy furnace was. But unexpectedly, the old Taoist priest who had been greedy for money just now suddenly became noble, insisting that the alchemy furnace had been bought by him. But under the observation of Shaun King's spiritual sense, he still caught the panic in his eyes. This old Taoist priest must be lying to me. He had no other choice but to say, "Tell me where the alchemy furnace is, and I'll pay 50,000. The old Taoist priest waved his hand and refused. 100,000. The old Taoist priest still didn't budge. At this moment, he seemed to have no interest in money anymore, saying softly, "No way. Then I'll have to use strong measures." Shaun King pulled Senior Frank over and whispered a few words. Senior Frank looked a little awkward after hearing it, but still stepped forward. At this moment, the old Taoist priest sighed, "Little friend, don't pester anymore. If fate decrees no encounter, why bother meeting? Don't move." Before the old Taoist priest could finish, Senior Frank had walked to the statue of Primordial Heavenly Lord and directly lifted it. Junior Finn then lifted the statue of Supreme Lord Lao. As long as the young master gave the order, these two statues would be smashed. "Old Grandpa, tell us about the alchemy furnace, and I won't let them destroy the Taoist temple." Shaun King showed an innocent and harmless expression, staring at the old Taoist priest. The old Taoist priest was so angry his face contorted as if he was about to explode. After a standoff, the old Taoist priest finally relented. The three stood beside the old Taoist priest, listening attentively. Then the old Taoist priest sighed and slowly recounted the story of the founding master. It turned out that hundreds of years ago, a large demon wreaked havoc here, bullying the common people. Master Wallace, for the sake of the people, exhausted his cultivation and used his Dharma artifact, the alchemy furnace, to seal the demon. But because of this, the founding master's cultivation dissipated, and he was seriously injured. Not long after, he passed away here. The demon was also sealed in the back mountain, and, at the same time, anyone was forbidden to go up the mountain. Shaun King was moved as if he had personally witnessed the scene of the Taoist master fighting the demon. So he asked, "Then isn't Master Wallace's alchemy furnace on Xianyan Mountain?" The old Taoist priest shook his head, saying that hundreds of years had passed, and even he didn't know the specific location. Then the group left the Taoist temple. Shaun King looked at the mountain behind, intending to explore Xianyan Mountain, but under Senior Frank's persuasion, he had to go back first. Returning to the villa, Stacy King was in a very bad mood today. After dinner, she went back to her room. She must be worried about Dad's injury. Shaun King also returned to his room, preparing for tonight's plan. The sky gradually darkened. The King family villa was unusually quiet today. Shaun King summoned the Golden Crow, intending to fly to Xianyan Mountain from the window, but suddenly sensed several special auras. He spread out his spiritual sense and found 5 masked men quietly approaching the periphery of the villa. Senior Frank and Junior Finn, who were guarding outside the villa, also discovered them at this time and shouted. Then the two brothers stared at the opponents. Shaun King wasn't worried at all, because he sensed that these 5 people combined were no match for Senior Frank and Junior Finn. He intended to wait for them to finish and then sneak away. But unexpectedly, at this moment, another man in a black cloak appeared, looking much more formidable than Senior Frank. Not bad. The King family still has 2 masters. The man in black sneered. "You 5 useless things, why don't you hurry up and kill that kid?" The 5 masked men immediately bypassed Senior Frank and Junior Finn, intending to rush into the villa. Senior Frank stepped forward to stop them, but was blocked by the man in black. Junior Finn threw a punch, but was kicked away by the man in black. Shaun King coldly observed the battlefield, stroking the Golden Crow. Today, it might have to be stained with blood. At this moment, the 5 men who rushed into the villa suddenly saw a cold light flash. Then their eyes widened, and they fell to the ground. In the dark night, the Golden Crow hummed softly, as if very excited. Shaun King also went outside the villa, and saw that the man in black had knocked out Senior Frank and Junior Finn and was about to flee. So, he hurriedly called out to him. The man in black turned his head, surprised, and then immediately rushed toward Shaun King like a ferocious wild wolf. But Shaun King only raised his finger and lightly pointed forward. A white light pierced through the man in black's shoulder. The man in black's tragic scream echoed. Shaun King pointed a few more times, crippling his 4 limbs, and said, "Who are you?" He threatened the man in black fiercely. At this moment, the man in black could only kneel on the ground, his 4 limbs unable to move. "Ow! How could this be?" he roared madly. "A kid like you. How can you have the strength of a martial Dao Grandmaster? Fake. It must be fake." Gradually, the man in black's voice grew softer, his head hanging low. After checking, Shaun King was surprised. Poison? He actually committed suicide. Not getting the information he wanted, Shaun King was a little disappointed. But after checking Senior Frank and Junior Finn's injuries, he breathed a sigh of relief. After he finished acupuncture, They would wake up in less than half an hour. After dealing with the 6 people, Shaun King confidently stepped onto the Golden Crow and flew towards Sienna Mountain. Half an hour later, at the King family villa, Senior Frank and Junior Finn woke up one after another, surprised to find that they hadn't been killed by the man in black. Regaining their composure, Senior Frank dragged his injured body to the young master's room, pushed open the door, and was stunned, falling to the ground. The young master is missing. At the foot of Sienna Mountain, Shaun King had been searching in the mountains all night. At this time, both his spiritual sense and spiritual energy were somewhat depleted. He hadn't expected the alchemy furnace to be so hard to find. He even suspected that the old Taoist priest had tricked him. Shaun King was very tired. Suddenly, his spiritual sense detected a hollow cliff face, located near the mountaintop, beside a cliff. Without spiritual sense detection, ordinary people couldn't discover it. With a thought, the Golden Crow carried him to the cliff. He waved his hand, and the cliff face shook, dust flew, and rubble fell. Not long after, a narrow passage appeared in the dust. There's an entrance. Shaun King was surprised, and then walked in. This passage was gloomy and damp, and a faint spiritual energy emanated from deep within. He became even more certain that the alchemy furnace was here, and his mood became excited. The deeper he went, the wider the passage became, and the more space there was for activity. Finally, after passing a corner, he reached a secret room. The alchemy furnace. Shaun King exclaimed joyfully. Entering this secret room, apart from the bare stone walls, there were only a few items placed on a stone table in the middle. Approaching to look, Shaun King suddenly sensed a skeleton sitting cross-legged behind the alchemy furnace. In addition, the life story of Taoist Master Wallace was recorded on the adjacent cliff wall. He slowly walked over, his chubby face exuding a solemn expression. After reading it, he found that it was indeed as the old Taoist priest had said. Taoist Master Wallace died from serious injuries inflicted by a snake demon while protecting the common people. What a saint! The Taoist master once said that after 100 years, the demon would die. So, can I take the alchemy furnace now? Then he walked to the stone table. On the table was an alchemy furnace as tall as an adult. Beside it were a few items, 2 books, a token, and a small jade bottle. Shaun King casually flipped through the 2 books. They were Taoist cultivation methods, useless to him. A character, Marshall, was carved on the token, and he didn't know its use. The small jade bottle, however, interested him. He opened the bottle cap, and a strong life force emanated. Its innate spiritual fluid. He had heard Master say that some blessed grotto heavens produced innate spiritual fluid. Drinking it not only improved one's physique and cleansed meridians and bones, but was also very beneficial for cultivation. This trip to Sienna Mountain is really a big profit. Suppressing his excitement, Shaun King sat cross-legged on the ground. There wasn't much innate spiritual fluid in the jade bottle. He only took 1/6 and poured it into his mouth. I don't feel anything. He pouted and poured another 1/6 into his mouth. Boom! A huge spiritual energy immediately shattered his meridians. It hurt so much. His fair face became even paler. The intense pain almost made him faint. Suddenly, a black spiritual energy appeared in his body and actually rushed to the damaged meridians, automatically healing them. Sweat as big as beans oozed from his forehead. His small body trembled under the powerful impact of the spiritual energy. The damaged meridians were healed again. This continued for half a day. Shaun King lay exhausted on the ground. The pain finally disappeared. After adjusting his state, he felt much stronger. He even sensed the bottleneck of the foundation establishment stage. Then he stood up, intending to put the alchemy furnace into his storage ring. But unexpectedly, as soon as he lifted the alchemy furnace, a huge black snake, 20 meters long, suddenly appeared in the cave. How could this be? Didn't Taoist Master Wallace say the snake demon would die after 100 years? Shaun King looked grimly at the giant snake, 100 times larger than himself. Kikik. Wallace. Oh, Wallace, I didn't expect this king to be able to return to the human world. Spreading out his spiritual sense, Shaun King was horrified to find that he couldn't see through the black snake's strength. It was just that its spiritual pressure wasn't very strong. Kid, you're the one who released this king. Then this king must thank you properly. As a reward, you shall be this king's first meal after returning to the human world. The snake demon had 2 small horns on its head, clearly about to transform into a dragon. Shaun King ignored the snake, silently analyzing in his heart. The snake demon has been sealed for so long, it must be at its weakest now. Therefore, when the snake demon opened its mouth to swallow him, he skillfully dodged its abyss-like giant mouth. You're also a cultivator? The flesh and blood of a cultivator is delicious. The snake demon turned around and attacked him. He couldn't hide his strength anymore. Shaun King immediately summoned the Golden Crow and shot it towards the snake demon. Shriek! The sound of metal scraping rang out. The flying sword made a small, shallow wound on the snake demon's body. Shaun King couldn't help but be shocked. The snake demon's defense is so strong. With the Golden Crow flying sword, this move of his could split an armored tank, yet it only left a scratch on the snake demon. The snake demon was also startled. This kid can actually break my defense? Prodigy. Two words appeared in the snake demon's mind. Could it be that cultivators nowadays cultivate faster? The snake demon flicked its tongue, staring at the boy with cold eyes. After all, it had just escaped, and its strength hadn't fully recovered. After several dozen rounds, Shaun King had retreated, panting heavily. The snake demon also retracted its pearl, flicked its tongue, and said, "Kid, I admit you are the most outstanding cultivator I have ever met. Even that old geezer Wallace was no match for you. Now, I'll give you a chance. Let me plant my venomous snake in you. If you obey my orders in the future, I won't kill you." Shaun King laughed coldly, holding his sword with both hands and standing up. "Cunning snake, you've killed so many people, yet you still don't understand the principle of cutting the grass and removing the roots? If I agree, you'll immediately use your venomous snake to kill me, right?" The snake demon threw its head back and laughed loudly. "Kikik, kid, how many more moves can you make? What do you have to kill me? If I were at my peak, you would have been blown away by me long ago." Shaun King slowly raised his head, his tone firm as he said word by word, "To kill you, I only need one sword." Suddenly, he poured all his spiritual power. As if sensing its master's thoughts, the body of the golden crow sword also vibrated violently. This time, his sword slowly transformed into a large black flame sword. The high temperature made the secret room even hotter. Thundering wind sword art. The snake demon's expression changed. This time, the sense of danger was too strong. It wasn't sure it could withstand it. So, it spat out the blackish-green pearl again, forming a protective shield around its body. Third move of the thundering wind sword art, flame-breaking greatsword. With Shaun King's angry shout, the shield shattered upon contact with the sword. "Impossible!" the snake demon screamed, then was struck by the greatsword. Boom! The entire Xianyun mountain trembled, dust filled the air, and the entrance to the secret cave collapsed, completely buried by rubble. After a long while, it finally quieted down. This sword had drained all of Shaun King's spiritual energy. At this moment, he had no fighting strength left. The snake demon lay motionless, a deep sword wound running from its neck to its vital 7-inch spot. Seeing the snake demon unconscious, Shaun King sat cross-legged, swallowed a chi-replenishing pill, and restored the spiritual energy in his body. An hour later, half of his spiritual energy had recovered. He took out the golden crow and slowly walked towards the snake demon. With one strike, the snake demon, which was about to transform into a dragon, died on the spot. Phew! Shaun King breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally killed this damn snake. Looking at the giant snake's corpse, he was about to release spiritual fire to incinerate it. But the golden crow in his hand suddenly lost control and stabbed into the snake demon. Shaun King watched in amazement as the snake demon's corpse quickly shriveled up, finally leaving only a snakeskin and a blackish-green pearl. When the golden crow flew back into his hand, he could clearly feel that its quality had risen by a level, from a mid-grade first-tier spiritual artifact to a high-grade first-tier spiritual artifact. This astonished him. Then he studied the blackish-green pearl again. Now, not only have I touched the bottleneck of the foundation establishment stage, but I also have innate spiritual fluid and a demon core. So, I could try to break through to the foundation establishment stage here. Thinking of this, Shaun King held the demon core, sat cross-legged on the stone table, and prepared to break through to the foundation establishment stage. That day, a hole was suddenly blasted into the cliff face of Xianyun Mountain. Gradually, a boy in tattered clothes, but with an exquisite face, walked out of the cave. Shaun King looked at the abyss below his feet, then stepped into the air. It was as if there was an invisible staircase in the air, helping him climb to the mountaintop step by step. Instantly, in the 9 heavens, dark clouds gathered, and black lightning clouds slowly assembled above the mountaintop. Master once said that one only has to undergo lightning tribulation when reaching the golden core stage. Why is there one for the foundation establishment stage too? Shaun King was dissatisfied, but could only prepare himself and begin to undergo the tribulation. Quickly, after 3 lightning tribulations descended, the lightning clouds gradually dissipated. His whole body was char-black. At this moment, he officially became a foundation establishment stage cultivator. A 6-year-old foundation establishment stage cultivator, even in the distant cultivation world, was a genius. Half a day later, in the sky above Mado, Shaun King stood with his arms crossed on the golden crow flying sword. "I don't know how long I've been cultivating. How are my sisters?" he muttered. Then he took out the iPhone from his pocket. During the battle with the snake demon, the phone had been shattered. During the tribulation, it had been struck by lightning several times. At this moment, the iPhone looked extremely pathetic, still emitting black smoke. Boom! The iPhone in his hand exploded, almost making him fall off the flying sword. "I should go home first. My sisters must be very worried." Thinking of this, a sweet smile appeared on his small face. Then the flying sword accelerated again, drawing a trail of smoke in the sky above Mado. Approaching the villa, Shaun King put away the golden crow and walked towards the main gate. The security guard at the main gate clearly saw the boy and immediately opened the gate, respectfully inviting him in. But Shaun King frowned and asked him, "What's the date today?" The security guard was stunned for a moment, then told him, "Today is October 6th. Shaun King couldn't believe it. He had actually been on Cianyan Mountain for nearly 30 days. Then he hurriedly ran towards the villa. Entering the villa, only Annie Lamb and a few maids were cleaning in the main hall. Annie Lamb, where are my sisters? Shaun King called out to Annie Lamb, but Annie Lamb froze, staring blankly at the boy standing at the door. Woof woof. Blackie ran over from a distance like a streak of lightning, licking his small hand. Ouch! Blackie, wait, don't rush. Shaun King pushed Blackie away. At this moment, Shaun King spread out, his spiritual sense covering the entire King family villa, but found no sign of his sisters. Crash! The sound of a glass breaking came from the living room. Shaun King looked towards the sound and saw a woman standing on the sofa with a man in a wheelchair beside her. He looked at the two and, for some reason, felt a warm aura from them. Annie Lamb was about to speak, but was stopped by Jack King's gaze. Sophia Chun pushed the wheelchair in front of Shaun King and looked gently at the boy. Shaun King blinked and reached out to touch his face. Auntie, is my face dirty? Sophia Chun suppressed her bitterness and said to him, No, Shaun King is the cutest child in the world. Auntie, how do you know my name? Shaun King looked at Annie Lamb in confusion, but Annie Lamb said nothing, just smiled and did her housework. Shaun King, go change your clothes quickly. Look, your clothes are all torn. The woman gently reminded him. Shaun King stuck out his tongue, was led away by Annie Lamb, and skipped upstairs. When he came downstairs, he saw the middle-aged couple looking at him with gentle eyes. He couldn't help but ask the two, Uncle, Auntie, are you Shaun King's relatives? Jack King couldn't help but laugh out loud. He didn't expect his son to be so clever. And so cute, too. Sophia Chen covered her mouth and giggled, blaming the man in the wheelchair. Why don't you quickly tell our darling who you are? Jack King opened his arms wide. Shaun King, come here. Uncle will tell you who he is. Shaun King walked over half-believingly and was then hugged by Jack King. Sophia Chen frowned and reminded him, Be careful. Your chest wound hasn't healed yet. Don't aggravate it. Jack King paid no attention, looking at the small son sitting on his lap, smiling kindly. Shaun King suddenly remembered what his sister had once said. Dad was assassinated by a martial artist and seriously injured. Could it be? Jack King pinched his cheek and said indulgently, Uncle's name is Jack King. Guess who I am? Dad! Shaun King exclaimed in surprise. This sweet call made Jack King overjoyed. Then he pointed at Sophia Chun and asked Shaun King, You guessed right. Now guess who she is? Mom. At this moment, Sophia Chun snatched him from his arms and hugged him tightly. Good boy, are you hungry? Mom will take you to eat. After speaking, she even gave him a peck on the cheek. Yes, I want to eat lobster, chicken, and milk tea. Shaun King chattered on about his favorite foods, snuggling into his mother's embrace at the same time. He hadn't expected to meet his parents this way. Initially, he was worried his parents wouldn't like him. It seemed those worries were unnecessary. So, Shaun King had his first meal with his parents. At the dining table, Jack King carefully asked his son how he had lived these past few years. Shaun King calmly recounted his life to his parents. Finally, Sophia Chun, with tears in her eyes, hugged him tightly. Good boy, with Mom and Dad here, we will definitely not let you suffer anymore. Shaun King nodded warmly in agreement. Jack King also patted his son's head, as if he had decided something in his heart. After dinner, the whole family got into the car and returned to the villa. Stopping the car in front of the villa gate, Shaun King happily ran down. As he pushed open the villa door and looked up, he saw Stacy King and Vivian King, looking haggard. Sisters. Stacy King, with tears in her eyes, ran over and hugged her little brother tightly. Vivian King also stood beside them happily, looking at the two. Naughty little brother, why were you missing for so long? I was so worried, do you know? Shaun King blankly hugged Stacy King, feeling a little embarrassed as he explained. Anyway, the family was reunited. That night, lying in bed, Shaun King suddenly remembered that his birthday was coming soon. Moreover, the motto birthday party seemed to be starting soon too. He took out the invitation and carefully put it into his storage ring. He planned to celebrate at home at noon on his birthday first, then go to the birthday party to play and watch the fireworks. Just thinking about it was exciting. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Shaun King frowned in confusion and spread out his spiritual sense. Stacy King was standing outside the door. He unlocked the door. Stacy King walked in and lay down on his bed. Don't go. What do you want? I still have to sleep. Shaun King was about to persuade his sister, but unexpectedly, Stacy King had already acted, hugging him tightly, her lips pressed together, and said coldly, Good little brother, where have you been these past few days? Why didn't you call me? Confess honestly. The cold voice rang in his ear, making Shaun King tremble. He clasped his hands and said aggrievedly, I woke up and met an old Taoist priest. He said I was a prodigy and wanted to take me as his disciple. He was making it up, his chubby face slightly red. Stacy King stared at him and nodded. Slightly. The scent of a young woman wafted around his nose, very fragrant, very sweet. Then Stacy King hugged him and told him what she had done during the days he was missing, how much she missed her little brother. Unknowingly, Shaun King had fallen asleep in her arms. Seeing her little brother asleep, she gently kissed his forehead. Early the next morning, Shaun King sleepily ran downstairs. Everyone in the family had finished breakfast and was now sitting together, discussing something. Shaun King listened attentively and found that Stacy King was recounting the reason for his disappearance to everyone. Sophia, Jin asked in surprise. Could it be that our Shaun King has the qualities to be a Taoist priest? Why did the Taoist master come to the King family villa in the middle of the night and take our little brother away? Shaun King, eavesdropping, felt a headache. This lie was too amateurish and was about to be exposed. He tiptoed to the dining table, picked up a sandwich, and ate it under everyone's scrutinizing gaze. Vivian King put down her teacup, leaned close to his face, and asked, Little brother, you said an old Taoist priest took you away. So where is he? Shaun King broke out in a cold sweat, his forced smile frozen on his face. Everyone's expression was strange, as if they didn't believe his story. His mind raced. Master didn't allow me to reveal it, but he gave me something. After speaking, he pretended to rummage through his clothes, then took out a book and placed it on the table. Everyone immediately came forward to look. Even Jack King temporarily forgot his injury. Wudong Taoist internal cultivation method. Huge waves surged in the hearts of the four. Large families like theirs had some understanding of various martial arts sections. In the eyes of outsiders, the Wudong sect was a place for praying for blessings and cultivating the mind, but internally, it was one of the holy lands of Taoist cultivation. Taoist cultivators possessed vast supernatural powers. If that Taoist master wanted to take Shaun King as a disciple and then saved him, everything could be explained. Shaun King put away the book. Jack King immediately regained his composure and sat back in his wheelchair. Then Stacy King took out a new iPhone and instructed her little brother, I had someone buy you a new phone. If anything happens in the future, you must inform the family immediately. Remember to answer your phone. Shaun King picked up the phone and saw that WeChat was already logged in, exactly like his previous phone. After dinner, he had to put on his backpack and go to school again. This time, the whole family squeezed into one car to go to the elementary school. He was squeezed so much that he could only lean against Sophia Chin's embrace. Shaun King rubbed his face. Reaching the school gate, he jumped out of the car, waved goodbye to everyone, then turned and ran into the school. Class 1A. Entering this familiar, yet unfamiliar classroom, Shaun King felt a little emotional. Time flies. I haven't been to school for a month. But as soon as he sat down, a boy shouted at him, This is my seat. Turning his head, he saw a short boy glaring at him, which confused Shaun King. You're Shaun King, right? The one who didn't come after school, just started? Your seat is over there now. After speaking, the short boy frowned and pointed to a seat in the corner of the classroom. That seat was right next to the trash can, so no one wanted to sit there. Shaun King was speechless. Where did this kid, half a head shorter than me, come from? Why haven't I seen him before? At this moment, Tado also walked into the classroom with his backpack. Seeing Shaun King had returned, he happily ran over and said with a smile, Shaun King, why did it take you so long to come to class? Then he pulled Shaun King aside and whispered, This kid is a new transfer student who came after you left. His name is Danny Young. I heard his dad is a member of our school's board of directors. Don't mess with him. Board of directors? Shaun King was confused. Tado explained, the board of directors is even more powerful than the principal. Generally, teachers in the school don't dare to mess with him. After hearing this, Shaun King roughly understood what he meant. I don't care what board it is. No one can take my seat. Shaun King ignored Danny Young's words and directly sat down in his old seat. Seeing this, Danny Young angrily reached out to hit him. Slap! A crisp slap echoed in the classroom. Danny Young's face quickly showed a handprint. Shaun King didn't even look at him. But unexpectedly, Danny Young burst into loud sobs. Then, under the astonished gazes of the classmates, he ran out of the classroom to the public phone. Tado saw this and said worriedly, Danny Young must be calling his dad. You should change seats quickly. If his dad comes, you'll be beaten. Shaun King raised an eyebrow, thinking to himself, is this what they call when you beat a dog? You have to consider its owner? Then he pouted, took out the 5 years of exam preparation, 3 years of university entrance exams book, and read it avidly. Not long after, hurried footsteps sounded from the classroom door. A burly middle-aged man walked in and shouted, Who hit my son? Danny Young arrogantly pointed at Shaun King. Dad, he hit me. My face is all swollen. Dominic Young strode to Shaun King's side, furious. You hit my son? Shaun King closed his book and nodded. In an instant, Dominic Young threw a kick at him. A light flashed in Shaun King's pupils. Then he picked up his book and easily blocked Dominic Young's kick. Why did you hit me? Shaun King asked innocently, then secretly took out his phone and turned on the recording. You dared to touch my precious son? Of course. I have to teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents. Then Dominic Young sneered, deliberately lowering his voice. Whatever my son does is right. It's just your bad luck for messing with the wrong person. Your parents must be no good to raise a son like you. Hearing this, killing intent surged in Shaun King's heart. But he remained calm. Then I'll let you see what my parents are like. After Shaun King said this, he took out his phone from his pocket and made a call. Sister, a classmate's parent is bullying me. After making the call, Shaun King put away his iPhone and pouted, looking out the window. Seeing this, Dominic Young snorted coldly. Violating school rules by bringing a phone. And you still dare to call your sister? Wait until your sister comes. I'll see how I deal with both of you. The tattooed man beside him also glared at Shaun King. The other classmates all sat quietly, not daring to breathe loudly. On the other side, dozens of luxury cars sped towards the elementary school affiliated with Mado University. Behind them were several military jeeps. In the classroom, Shaun King used his spiritual sense to detect that his family had arrived at the school and smiled sweetly. But Danny Young was still arrogant. Huh, is your sister coming or not? Or were you picked up from somewhere, and your family doesn't care about you? As soon as he finished speaking, bang, the classroom door was suddenly kicked open. Under everyone's astonished gaze, the two King sisters walked into the classroom, their eyes cold. Who dares to bully my little brother? Dominic Young regained his composure and said impatiently, Two girls? Are they his sisters? The tattooed man also looked at the two sisters with a lecherous gaze. At the same time, footsteps sounded from outside the door again. 6 old men from the Mado University Board of Directors walked into the classroom one by one. As soon as one old man entered, he exclaimed in surprise, You are, little Young? Dominic Young. Dominic Young looked at the old man with a puzzled expression. Recognizing who it was, he immediately changed his expression, fawningly walked over, and greeted him. Vivian King looked at the old man coldly. It seems you are very familiar with him. The old man immediately understood and hurriedly waved his hands, explaining, Not familiar. Not familiar. I've only met him a few times. Dominic Young's face turned pale. It seemed the old man was very afraid of this woman. Bang! The back door of the classroom was kicked open. From the front and back doors, several soldiers rushed in. The leading captain shouted, Motto Military Region Business. Unrelated personnel, withdraw immediately. Ms. Laura, standing on the podium, was already scared silly and hurriedly organized the students to leave the classroom. Not long after, all the students in the classroom had left. At this time in the classroom, Stacy King hurriedly ran over and hugged her little brother, gently asking what happened. Shaun King aggrievedly recounted the whole story and even took out his phone to play the recording. Hearing the insults to her little brother in the recording, Stacy King gritted her teeth. Then Shaun King tugged at her clothes and said aggrievedly, Danny Young's dad kicked me. Slap. Vivian King couldn't bear it anymore and slapped Dominic Young. How dare you touch someone from the King family, insult my little brother, and bully others with your power? Today, I'll show you what it means to bully others with power. Receiving Vivian King's instructions, several soldiers beat Dominic Young and the tattooed man to a pulp. In the classroom, Danny Young was so scared he burst into tears. Finally, Dominic Young's glasses were shattered, and everyone stopped. The tattooed man lay groaning beside him, without a trace of his previous aggressive aura. After some discussion, the several old men from the Mado University Board of Directors announced, Dominic Young, after deliberation, the Mado University Board of Directors has decided to revoke your membership on the board of the affiliated elementary school. At this time, Dominic Young's face was ashen. Under the escort of soldiers, the two were taken into a military vehicle for abusing their power and intentionally attacking children. Danny Young was also expelled from the school. The principal personally escorted Shaun King back to class. The classmates returned to class one by one. This time, everyone looked at him with awe. In their eyes, the scene just now was too shocking. Ms. Laura also tidied her hair, forced a smile, and walked into the classroom, announcing to the students that classes would be normal this morning. This afternoon, there would be a cultural performance to celebrate National Day. Each class had to have a performance. Any little friend with talent, please actively sign up. Hearing this, a question mark appeared above Shaun King's head. He hurriedly asked Todd Doe, what kind of performance? Todd Doe scratched his head, thought for a moment, and replied, the school is organizing a cultural performance competition. Then each class will choose one performance and find a classmate to perform. Shaun King understood after hearing this and then asked, so, has anyone in our class signed up yet? Todd Doe shook his head helplessly and spread his hands. It's been a few days, and no one has signed up yet. Ahem, ahem. Ms. Laura was also very anxious. Other classes had already prepared their performances, but her class still had no one signed up. Looking at the day's students, Ms. Laura really wanted to cough up blood. How about this, students? We'll vote to choose one student. Then I'll teach that student how to perform. Yes, the classmates replied in unison. Seeing this, Ms. Laura finally breathed a sigh of relief. All right, each of you write down the name of one classmate on a piece of paper. Then I'll count the votes. So, a buzz of discussion started in the classroom. Shaun King also took out a piece of paper, but didn't know whose name to write. He looked at Todd Doe beside him. Although he covered his hand, he still saw the 3 words Shaun King. Great, Todd Doe. I considered you a friend, and you stabbed me in the back. Shaun King also secretly wrote Todd Doe's name on the paper. After all the papers were submitted, Ms. Laura began to count the votes. As the votes were recorded, her expression became increasingly unsightly. Ahem, ahem, students, I'll announce the vote count. Little Tiger, 2 votes. Ivy Dean, 1 vote. Shun Xiang, 2 votes. Todd Doe, 1 vote. Shaun King, 24 votes. Wow, the classroom was in an uproar. Unexpectedly, the vast majority of people had unanimously voted for Shaun King. Shaun King, sitting in the 3rd row, his face pale. Why was I chosen to perform as soon as I came back? Ms. Laura also wiped the sweat from her forehead and gently asked, Shaun King, can you perform? If you don't want to, we can choose someone else. Shaun King looked around and saw the expectant gazes of his classmates. He felt a little embarrassed. How can a man say he can't? So, he patted his chest and said confidently, I can. Ms. Laura was finally relieved. All right then, Shaun King, what talent do you have? If you don't have one, I'll teach you. Hearing this, Shaun King hurriedly replied, I do. After all, he didn't want to learn singing and dancing those girly dances with the teacher. All right, then, the whole class will cheer for you. After the discussion, the classroom quieted down again. The whole morning, Shaun King didn't leave the classroom. Outside the window, it was packed with his little fans. Only these little fans were all older than him. Soon it was noon. For the first period in the afternoon, Ms. Laura led the students in a line to the performance hall. Ms. Laura led the students to Class 1A's seats to rest, then asked Shaun King, what do you need to prepare for your performance? Shaun King thought for a moment and replied, I need a black hat. It would be even better if there were sunglasses. Ms. Laura immediately ran backstage. Not long after, she returned with a hat and a pair of sunglasses. She instructed, don't be nervous when you go on stage later. Just relax. Shaun King took the items and nodded. Not long after, the stage was ready. The cultural performance officially began. The students below clapped and cheered. After watching a few acrobatics and contortion performances, Shaun King suddenly spotted a familiar figure on stage. Next, please enjoy a piano solo by Shelby Cole from Class 2A. This piqued Shaun King's interest. He curiously looked at the little girl on stage. Shelby Cole was wearing a white dress today, with her hair tied in two buns, looking very cute. She took small steps to the piano, took a deep breath, and began to play. Instantly, the entire hall was filled with melodious piano music. Everyone closed their eyes, as if seeing a fairy under the full moon. A moment later, the piano music stopped. Thunderous applause erupted from below. The judges looked at each other and smiled. Finally, they gave 95 points, a high score. Shelby Cole blushed, bowed her thanks, and then walked off the stage. At this time, Ms. Laura also hurriedly reminded Shaun King to prepare to go on stage. So he stood up and walked backstage. The MC asked him what talent he was performing. Shaun King whispered to the MC. The MC looked surprised after hearing it, then took the microphone and said, Next, please enjoy a magic show performed by Shaun King from Class 1A. Wow! Warm applause erupted from below. After all, no elementary school student could refuse an exciting magic show. Instantly, everyone fell silent, staring at Shaun King standing in the middle of the stage. Shaun King walked to the edge of the stage, then put on his hat and politely bowed to the audience. There's nothing in the hat, viewers. He even specifically shook the hat downwards. Then he pretended to rummage in the hat. The students below stared intently at his movements, wanting to be the first to expose this clumsy performance. Then Shaun King made a slight mental effort and summoned a piece of wood from his storage ring. Clack! The piece of wood fell out of the hat, surprising the students below. But in the crowd, someone still retorted, It must have been hidden in the hat. There's a secret compartment inside. Open the secret compartment, and the wood will fall out. That's right, that's right. Clack! As if to slap his face, a larger piece of wood fell to the ground. The students were stunned. What kind of trick is this? It must be a slightly larger secret compartment. That's right, that's right. If he can take out anything else, I'll immediately do a handstand and wash my hair. I'll run straight onto the stage. Whatever he drops, I'll eat it. But when a rock much larger than the hat fell, the audience below immediately fell silent. Boom, boom, boom. The hat continued to drop things. Herbs, stones, sabers, spears, clubs, staffs. Boom. Suddenly, a huge alchemy furnace appeared. The ground trembled, and the stage floor shattered, making the students' eyes widen. Seeing this, Shaun King secretly thought, Oh no, I accidentally took out the 3-yang alchemy furnace. Sure enough, the audience below was stunned. Shaun King momentarily didn't know how to explain. Then an idea came to him. Under the puzzled gazes of the classmates, he slowly raised the hat, pointed at the rock, and said, Rock, rock, I call you once, do you dare to answer? Seeing this scene, everyone was bewildered. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, and the huge rock on the ground disappeared. Then he turned again, pointed at the alchemy furnace, and said, Alchemy furnace, I call you once, do you dare to answer? As soon as he finished speaking, the alchemy furnace also disappeared before everyone's eyes. Shelby Cole below gasped, looking at Shaun King with an expression of disbelief. The other classmates also stared wide-eyed. Instantly, they only felt their scalps tingle, as if something was about to grow out. At this moment, Shaun King looked at the students below. Seeing they still hadn't applauded, Haven't they seen enough? He pouted in annoyance. If I knew it would be this troublesome, I wouldn't have come up here. Then he threw the hat into the air, using his spiritual power to control the hat to levitate. The hat flew down, circling above the students' heads. Someone tried to jump up and grab it, but they always missed by a hair. Finally, the hat flew back to the stage and landed on his head. Everyone thought the performance was over. Unexpectedly, Shaun King reached out his hand on the stage. A moment later, he snapped his fingers. A flame suddenly appeared in the air. Under his control, the flame sometimes transformed into a roaring tiger, sometimes into an elephant waving its trunk. Disperse! Shaun King shouted, and the flame immediately disappeared. Then he snapped his fingers again. The entire stage suddenly filled with pink smoke. In the smoke, several hot girls twisted and danced, appearing and disappearing. Several male teachers and judges watched with bloodshot eyes. Disperse! The illusion formation was removed, and the illusion immediately disappeared. That should be enough. If I push it further, I'll really be exposed. Then Shaun King bowed to the audience. Instantly, the entire hall erupted in thunderous applause. The teachers and judges directly gave 100 points, the highest score. Quickly, all the cultural performances ended. The MC took the microphone and invited the performers onto the stage, simultaneously announcing the results. First prize, Shaun King, Class 1. Hearing his name, Shaun King gleefully ran onto the stage. Second prize, Shelby Cole, Class 2A. Shelby Cole below covered her mouth and slowly walked to Shaun King's side, shyly looking at him. For some reason, her face was as red as an apple. Shaun King even thought she had a fever. In the afternoon, after school, Shaun King happily walked out of school, holding his trophy. At the school gate, Jack King and Sophia Chan were smiling at him. The difference was that today, Dad was not in a wheelchair. This made Shaun King silently wonder, is Dad not pretending to be sick today? As soon as Shaun King put on his backpack and walked over, Jack King hugged him tightly. Dad's precious son won an award again today. Shaun King proudly shook the trophy in his hand. I won first prize in the talent competition today. Jack King was a little surprised. What other talents do you have? Then the three got into the car and went home. Shaun King showed the trophy to his mother. It clearly stated, Motto University Affiliated Elementary School Talent Competition, first prize. Sophia Chan patted his head and praised him endlessly. Shaun King opened his phone and browsed Weibo. Suddenly, he noticed several hot hashtags. National Treasure Pianist surprisingly appears at Motto Birthday Party. Mysterious Tycoon predicted to be a certain female star. Motto Birthday Party also features fireworks display. The number of comments had exceeded 100 million. He was stunned. He didn't expect so many people to be interested. At this moment, Sophia Chan, who was looking at her phone beside him, also suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Jack King worriedly and hurriedly asked, what happened? Sophia Chan handed him her phone to watch the video on the screen. In the video, Shaun King took out all sorts of things from a small hat, and finally even dropped a large rock in a huge alchemy furnace. This made the couple ponder. Son, how did you do that? Well, it was like this and then like that. Shaun King stammered, but it only made the two more suspicious. Quickly, the car drove back to the King family villa. In the main hall, Stacy King and Vivian King were drinking tea, each with a phone. Sisters. Shaun King gleefully ran in front of the two, then pretended to secretly take out the trophy from behind him. Sisters, look, this is the trophy I just received. Vivian King smiled, picked up Shaun King, and sat him on her lap. Seeing his two sisters not surprised at all, Shaun King was puzzled. Then the two simultaneously placed their phones on the table. The video playing on the screen was exactly the same as the one his mother had just shown him, only the number of likes had reached 20 million and seemed to be still increasing. Good little brother, tell sister how you did it. We're very curious. Stacy King stared at him, smiling. Again, Shaun King just wanted to play dead to escape. After thinking for a moment, an idea came to him. He explained, those are school props. The rock and the alchemy furnace are inflatable. Unexpectedly, the two women leaned close to his face, blew air, and asked, really? Good little brother? Really, really? Shaun King nodded repeatedly, his heart pounding. Sophia Chin stood beside them and gently reminded, sisters, don't tease him anymore. Look how nervous Shaun King is. Stacy King and Vivian King chuckled and put away their phones. At this moment, Shaun King remembered Master's instructions before he left. Absolutely do not reveal your strength. Do not let others know you are a cultivator. But now he had made his family suspicious. What should I do? Even Blackie cultivates with me. Does that count as breaking the rules? Moreover, immortals and mortals are separated by time. Time flies. When my family members grow old one by one, I will still be young. Thinking of this, Shaun King shook his head. He couldn't bear to see his sisters turn into old women. That night, when he returned to his room, he took out a jade bottle filled with round pills. I have to find a way to get my family to take the youth-retaining pill and marrow-cleansing pill, then start cultivating. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated and directly summoned the three-young alchemy furnace. Quickly, the temperature of the alchemy furnace rose to a certain level. He added medicinal materials to the furnace one by one. This process lasted until midnight. Under his careful control, the alchemy furnace emitted a resounding ding. Success! A moment later, Shaun King took out 3 warm pills from the new alchemy furnace. Only 3. He sighed in dissatisfaction. Then he put away the alchemy furnace and immediately sat cross-legged on the bed, immersing himself in cultivation. Time passed quickly, and it was the day of the birthday party. The next morning, after waving goodbye to Vivian King at Motto Elementary School, Shaun King, wearing a brand new green dinosaur costume, skipped into the school. However, Before he could even enter the classroom, Shaun King saw from a distance a group of adults holding microphones and cameras, like hunters, searching around the windows. And when Shaun King slowly approached the door, they seemed to have discovered a treasure and cheered loudly. He's here! He's here! It's this child! In an instant, Shaun King was surrounded by a group of reporters. Cameras flashed continuously, taking pictures. A female reporter's microphone even almost poked Shaun King in the mouth. Next, a female reporter smiled and interviewed Shaun King, asking his name and curious about how Shaun King performed his magic. Only then did Shaun King understand that it was because his magic show yesterday had gone viral online. Shaun King had to answer in a childish voice. My name is Shaun King. These are all school props. They just look real. After speaking, Shaun King politely asked the uncles and aunts, can you let me pass? I still have to go to class. Seeing the cute boy in the dinosaur costume, everyone quickly made way for Shaun King to pass. It wasn't until Shaun King returned to his seat that the reporters dispersed. At this time, Todd Doe poked Shaun King's arm and whispered a reminder. You have to be careful these days. These people sneaked into the school to take pictures of you. They're definitely not good people. Hearing this, Shaun King nodded, then put down his backpack and took out an advanced mathematics book to read. Todd Doe was already used to Shaun King's strange behavior. Anyway, he didn't understand what Shaun King was studying. At noon, after school, Shaun King and Todd Doe still went to the cafeteria for lunch as usual. Back in the classroom, the whole class was noisy and lively. Shaun King sat down, took out his phone, and browsed the web. Today, the top hot search was still the motto birthday party. Then there was some entertainment news. National treasure pianist Lara King cancels world tour, suspected to return to China. Shaun King was surprised to find that this name was exactly the same as his eighth sister's name. Shaun King continued to scroll down. At the bottom of the hot search list, a line attracted Shaun King's curiosity. Motto, first grader performs magic, shocks professional magic circle. Shaun King swallowed nervously and clicked on the video. Sure enough, Shaun King's video had been pushed to the top of the hot search. Shaun King nervously looked at the number of likes. 30 million. The number of comments was even higher, reaching millions. Clicking on the first comment, surprisingly, it was a comment from a national-level magician. Dude, this doesn't look like a magic trick. Moreover, the huge rock and alchemy furnace in the video don't look like props. They're too real. The boy also didn't have any extra movements when performing. The objects completely appeared out of thin air. Below, there was a group of programmers chiming in. The video has no traces of editing. This is a real shot, not a cut and paste. Staring at the iPhone in his hand, Shaun King felt his mind go numb. Afraid of being captured by scientists for research, Shaun King was relieved when, just before class, Ms. Laura joyfully announced that due to a major event in Motto tomorrow, all elementary and middle schools would have a day off. Furthermore, she would take them to watch the fireworks display tomorrow afternoon. Hooray! The whole class cheered, clapped, and danced. Not only would they get free cake tomorrow, but they would also watch a lively fireworks display. Amidst the cheers, Shaun King raised his hand and signaled to the teacher. Teacher, I have an invitation for tomorrow and have to go backstage to participate in the activities. The whole class looked at Shaun King with envy. Shaun King looked at Todd Doe beside him, smiled, and continued. I still have 3 spots. I'll give one to Todd Doe, so he can also go backstage with me. Gasps of astonishment filled the classroom. Todd Doe shook his head in disbelief, standing there stunned, not expecting Shaun King to give him a spot. Then, Todd Doe moved, puckered his lips, intending to kiss Shaun King, but was slapped away by Shaun King. Sorry, couldn't help it, Shaun King said, grinning and retracting his hand. This afternoon passed very slowly. Perhaps because tomorrow was a holiday, the students' minds had already flown home. Ring, ring, ring. The school dismissal bell rang. Shaun King cheerfully put on his backpack and left the school gate. At the school gate, after Shaun King got into a car, a black BMW in the distance slowly drove away. Tammy King smiled and said to the man driving, now we can release some hot spots. The more, the merrier. After hearing this, the man took out his phone and made a call. Tammy King took off her sunglasses and looked out the window. See you later, Shaun King. Returning to the manor, the whole family rarely gathered on the sofa to watch TV. The large screen was showing a preview of the fireworks display. Shaun King stared intently at the TV. He saw more than a dozen tank-like cannons being pulled out by staff. The several staff members in the video wore military uniforms, looking very imposing and majestic. They loaded fireworks, lit the fuse, a series of actions as smooth as flowing water. Suddenly, Jack King's phone rang. A strong male voice came from the phone. Battalion Commander, where are the Italian cannons? Jack King hurriedly hung up. The cannon on the TV had just fired. The entire King family broke out in a cold sweat. Damn it, there's no sense of fakeness at all. Boom, boom, boom. 3 consecutive explosions sounded. Fireworks exploded in the air, the light adorning the night sky, making it beautiful and brilliant. Petals rained down, as if within reach. Shaun King stared blankly at the TV, as if he had already imagined the scene of 10,000 flowers blooming. So beautiful, Shaun King muttered to himself. Stacy King smiled and scrolled down her phone, wanted to watch another video. Unexpectedly, she scrolled to the next hot search topic. On the TV, An interview video of Shaun King suddenly appeared. The cute dinosaur costume was particularly eye-catching in the reporter's lens. The small and adorable Shaun King possessed a charisma that other children didn't have. Stacy King was surprised. Why is there an interview video of Shaun King? It's even on the hot search list. Stacy King opened the comment section and seriously read other people's comments. Jack King, Sophia Chun, and Vivian King also curiously looked at the TV. So domineering. What color sack do you like, little one? I have blue, red, pink, beige. The expressions of everyone in the King family grew increasingly grim. And they all looked at Shaun King. What's wrong? Why is everyone looking at me like that? Shaun King said weakly, a little flustered. Everyone retracted their gazes, looked at each other, and nodded repeatedly, as if they had made an important decision. Turning off the phone screen, Stacy King resumed her sweet smile. Shaun King, tomorrow there will be many games and delicious food waiting for you. Shaun King blinked happily and hugged his sister tightly. Seventh sister is the best, Shaun King said in a childish voice. All right, my invitation has 3 spots. I gave one to my best friend, and the other 2 are for seventh sister and fourth sister. Hearing this, Vivian King and Stacy King immediately sandwiched Shaun King in the middle. Shaun King, you know how to love your sisters. After speaking, the 2 kissed Shaun King on the cheek. This made Shaun King blush with embarrassment. But when he saw his parents beside him, Shaun King felt a headache. Sophia Chin smiled and said, Son, don't worry, Mom and Dad also have invitations. Huh? Shaun King was bewildered. How come Mom and Dad also have them? Did they snatch them from other children? Seeing Shaun King's strange gaze, Stacy King coughed and explained, Our family is one of the sponsors for this event, so we have extra invitations. Stacy King didn't elaborate that this ceremony was actually also organized by the King family. Oh, I see. Shaun King had no more doubts, jumped off the sofa by himself, said goodbye to everyone, and then went upstairs to cultivate. After all, Shaun King was a self-disciplined boy. Seeing Shaun King leave, everyone in the King family gathered to discuss. Are the clothes ready? There can't be any mistakes tomorrow. Rest assured, we will definitely give Shaun King a surprise. Speaking of which, what are the girls planning to give Shaun King? Sorry, can't reveal it. This girl. Early the next morning, Shaun King was eagerly waiting downstairs. Hearing Annie Lamb return from the market, saying it was very lively outside. As usual, everyone finished breakfast. Shaun King looked at everyone expectantly, his eyes sparkling like stars, eagerly shouting in his heart. Why haven't they given me presents yet? So exciting. Yesterday, Shaun King heard Todd Doe say that on one's birthday, family members would give birthday presents and new clothes. Shaun King paced back and forth in the living room, wanting to ask, but then stopping himself. After a while, Shaun King really couldn't bear it anymore. He walked up to Stacy King and Vivian King, who were drinking tea, and tentatively reminded them, Sisters, isn't today Shaun King's birthday? Stacy King put down her teacup and replied nonchalantly, It's today. So, Shaun King waited nervously for his sister's reply. Vivian King suddenly owed. Shaun King thought Vivian King had understood his meaning and looked at her with excitement. Vivian King took out a small, exquisite box from behind her and handed it to Shaun King. Thump, thump. Shaun King's heart pounded. Shaun King grinned and opened a box in front of the 2. As he opened the box, Shaun King said in childish voice, Sister, you're so good. The box was opened. Shaun King's smile froze on his face. Collar. Shaun King managed to utter 2 words. Stacy King smiled and said, This is a dog collar that your 4th sister carefully selected. We're taking Blackie out today, afraid it will run around. Boom! It was like a thunderbolt from a clear sky in Shaun King's heart. His nose tingled, and he almost cried out loud. Then Shaun King resentfully took the collar and leash and walked step by step towards Blackie. Seeing Shaun King dejected, Stacy King frowned. 4th sister, are we doing the right thing? Vivian King couldn't bear to look away. After all, the surprise is at the end. Shaun King will definitely be happy tonight. Today we have to make him the happiest child in Motto. Blackie, beside the doghouse, smirked contemptuously. I didn't expect to be so important in my sister's hearts. Shaun King saw Blackie's appearance and said angrily, Hey Blackie, what are you looking at? Follow me up the mountain to practice. Woof! Blackie quickly put on a radiant smile, fawningly licking Shaun King's small hand. Oof! Don't think I didn't see. Finally, Shaun King and Blackie left the villa and ran towards the flower garden. Stacy King worriedly watched Shaun King leave. Vivian King smiled and said, It seems Shaun King isn't sad. He's still in a mood to walk the dog. That's true. At noon, Blackie limped into the villa under the astonished gazes of the 2 sisters. Blackie rushed into its doghouse, its whole body trembling. Shaun King returned to the villa with a radiant smile, skipped to his sister's side, and asked, Sisters, when are we leaving for the birthday party? I can't wait anymore. Can we leave now? Stacy King covered her mouth and laughed. If you can't wait anymore, get in 4th sister's car first. She'll take you to pick up your best friend. Shaun King nodded happily and went to the garage. The 2 sisters got into the Rolls-Royce, leading the convoy out of the garage, followed by several bodyguards. On the streets of Motto, the Rolls-Royce Phantom turned left and right, finally arriving at an ordinary residential area. In the residential area, Vivian King looked at the scrawled handwriting on the piece of paper, a little speechless. Then she pointed to the number on the paper and asked Shaun King, "Is this a 4 or a 9? Shaun King looked and replied affirmatively, "It's a 4. It's just that Todd Doe's handwriting is too bad. It looks like a 9. The bodyguards behind followed closely. The group followed the address and arrived at the door of a house. Knock, knock, knock. Vivian King knocked on the door. The person who opened the door was Todd Doe's mother. She was a little bewildered and tentatively asked, "Who are you looking for?" At this moment, Shaun King stepped forward and said, "Pretty Annie, I'm Todd Doe's friend. My name is Shaun King. I'm here to play with him." Hearing that he was looking for her son, Mother Doe enthusiastically invited everyone into the house. She had met Shaun King before when she took her son to school. She also liked this adorable, well-behaved, and sweet-mouthed boy very much. Moreover, yesterday her son had said that his classmate would pick him up for a party tomorrow. She had thought he was joking. Todd Doe heard Shaun King had arrived and immediately turned off the Peppa Pig video he was watching, rushing to the living room. As soon as they met, Todd Doe shouted happily, "Shaun King, you really came pick me up?" Vivian King looked at her little brother with a strange expression. After all this time, he had only managed to recruit one underling. Todd Doe and Shaun King chatted very happily, their mouths constantly discussing recent good cartoons. He even specifically recommended a very popular cartoon to Shaun King recently, Peppa Pig. In the cartoon, the Piggy Squad protected the forest and fought wits and courage with the bald-headed evil guy, Lou Zao. This made Shaun King very curious. Shaun King silently memorized this name and would ask his sister to find it for him to watch when he got home. Unknowingly, it was lunchtime. Vivian King spoke first. "Let's go out to eat together. The two kids must be hungry too." Mr. and Mrs. Doe chimed in and nodded. The group left the house and went to the residential area's garage. At this time, Father Doe, who was very knowledgeable about cars, exclaimed in surprise, "Rolls-Royce Phantom, Rolls-Royce Cullinan." Realizing his gaffe, he chuckled awkwardly. Shaun King curiously asked his sister, "Is this car very expensive?" Vivian King shook her head, patted Shaun King's head, and said, "It's not even 10 million. Shaun King owned that it's not expensive. After all, the balance in Shaun King's WeChat was enough to buy two. Father Doe almost spat blood. "What do you mean, not even 10 million? Based on his salary, even saving for 10 years, he couldn't afford this car." Hotel Tianding, VVIP suite. Tammy King excitedly chose clothes on the sofa. A girl in a light green long dress was sitting there. The clothes she had just tried on were all the latest products from famous brands, not yet released to the market. But for some reason, none of these clothes had the effect she wanted. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the hotel room door. The assistant's voice came from outside. "Miss Tammy, your clothes have arrived." Tammy King was overjoyed and hurriedly opened the door, taking the box from the assistant's hand. Laura King curiously asked, "Sister Tammy, where are these clothes from?" Tammy King smiled radiantly and mysteriously said to Laura King, "This is a set of clothes that third sister personally designed for me. I heard this is one of her most satisfactory designs. It will definitely make others marvel." Hearing this, Laura King also understood. Third sister was a world-class fashion designer, the founder of the FD brand, and also known as a trendsetter. Clothes designed by her would definitely not be bad. Tammy King opened the box. Inside were two exquisite boxes, one large and one small. On the boxes were two names written in flamboyant calligraphy, Tammy King, Shaun King. Tammy King burst out laughing when she saw it. She didn't expect third sister to have even prepared clothes for her little brother. At this moment, Laura King turned her head and looked out the window. It's almost time for the motto grand ceremony to begin. On the other hand, after lunch, the group drove to Tianding Square. The square had been renovated, with a complete stage, screen, sound system, and equipment. There are already a few thousand people scattered in the stands. Many people had arrived early to get the best spot to watch the fireworks, waiting to witness this spectacular fireworks display. Looking at the vast and magnificent stage, Shaun King and Todd Doe jumped for joy. When they reached the office building behind the stage, Shaun King found that hundreds of people had already gathered. Shaun King glanced and saw his family standing at the door, and Blackie was also being led along. Shaun King ran over and was picked up by Jack King, leaning against his shoulder. Stacy King and his mother smiled gently, their eyes full of indulgence. Vivian King approached everyone and whispered, "Can we go in now? I still have to do my makeup." Jack King nodded and at the same time looked at the three members of the Doe family beside him with some suspicion. After Vivian King explained for a while, everyone in the King family warmly greeted them. Todd Doe hid behind his father, fearfully looking at Blackie. "Shaun King, is this your dog? Does it bite?" Todd Doe said dejectedly to Shaun King. The big white dog in front of him was as tall as him and looked very fierce, especially its mouth, which looked like it could swallow his entire head. Shaun King confidently waved his hand. "Don't worry, my Blackie is very well behaved and obedient." Mr. and Mrs. Doe's mouths twitched. "Why such a beautiful white dog called Blackie? Let's go in first." Mr. and Mrs. Doe hesitated and said, "We don't have invitations. It's fine if Zimmo goes in with you. We'll sit in the stands." Stacy King gently explained to the two, We have extra invitations. You are Shaun King's friend's parents, so you are family. Mr. and Mrs. Doe gratefully thanked everyone. The group approached the door and lined up to enter the office building. While waiting for the security guard to check the invitations, Shaun King suddenly noticed that everyone else's invitations were silver, while his was gold. Shaun King curiously asked his sister, "Why is everyone else's invitation different from mine?" Vivian King narrowed her eyes, leaned close to Shaun King's ear, and said, "Because Shaun King's invitation is very powerful. Very quickly, the group reached the door. Shaun King stood at the front, nervously handing the golden invitation to the security guard. The security guard took the invitation. His pupils contracted, and he quickly picked up his walkie-talkie to report. "Report, director. The person has arrived." As soon as the security guard put down the walkie-talkie, a group of tall female attendants quickly came to the door. A polite middle-aged man hurried out, enthusiastically welcoming the King family. Shaun King dazedly walked in. Then a middle-aged man squatted down and asked Shaun King, "Are you young Master Shaun King?" Shaun King turned his head to look at his family, then nodded, "Yes." The middle-aged man immediately waved his hand and called two female attendants over, whispering a few instructions. A female attendant walked up to Shaun King and said in a clear voice, "Young master, please follow us to the changing room." Stacy King also stepped forward and said to Shaun King, "Every little friend has to change into new clothes. Later, you still have to go on stage." Shaun King curiously asked, "Didn't we come here to eat cake and watch fireworks? Why do we still have to go on stage?" Vivian King also came closer and explained, "Wear beautiful clothes, walk around the stage once, and you can receive the secret gift of the party." Shaun King remembered that the invitation seemed to mention that the selected children would receive a secret gift. Seeing both his sisters say so, Shaun King was also curious about the secret gift. Finally, Shaun King obediently followed the two female attendants into the elevator. Stacy King and Vivian King looked at each other and smiled. Plan successful. Next, it's Tammy's turn. Sophia, Shaun turned her head and reminded the three members of the Doe family. "There's a food court and a viewing area on the top floor with a very good view. If you need anything, you can find us anytime." After speaking, the four members of the King family, leading Blackie, also took the elevator and left. Mr. and Mrs. Doe breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the pressure lessen. Then the two took Todd Doe up to the top floor by elevator. On the third floor, the female attendant had just brought Shaun King into a large room. In the room, more than a dozen people were already respectfully bowing. "Young master, hello everyone." Seeing this scene, Shaun King was so nervous he didn't know what to say next. Then a fashionable girl from the crowd walked up to Shaun King and reminded him, "Young master, let's do your makeup first." Although Shaun King felt that only girls wore makeup and really wanted to refuse, the girl awkwardly explained that this was his sister's request, and she couldn't refuse. So, Shaun King was reluctantly taken to the makeup table. Time passed, and night fell. Motto was gradually swallowed by darkness. The stage also began to play upbeat music. The strong rhythm combined with the brilliant lights made people excited. Major media outlets, smelling a hot topic, quickly occupied the top positions. Father Doe looked out and felt his scalp tingle. Tens of thousands of people surrounded the stage. The brilliant lights gently swept across the crowd, reflecting smiling faces. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the sky above the square, several helicopters flew in from all directions at the same time. Each helicopter also hung a banner. The attention of the sea of people was attracted. Is this the opening ceremony of the tycoon's birthday party? A 6-year-old child, as fresh as a flower, cheerful laughter adds years. Below, it was noisy and lively. Everyone raised their phones to take pictures, recording this moment. Suddenly, all the lights went out, and the entire square was plunged into darkness. Then, Liam Lucas, a famous male artist in the entertainment industry, opened the ceremony. "Happy birthday to the little friends today," and he sang his famous song. Below, gasps of astonishment immediately rang out. Countless girls shouted his name. Backstage, Shaun King stood blankly behind a group of children, a little flustered. The children beside him were all wearing black cloaks and pure white trousers. Only Shaun King was different. On stage, after Liam Lucas finished singing a song, enthusiastic applause immediately erupted from below. He smiled and said, "This event has randomly selected 1,000 lucky children. Please come on stage." Creak. Shaun King saw the door leading to the stage open. All the children walked onto the stage in an orderly manner. Shaun King was stunned for a moment, then tiptoed and followed the group. Several stage spotlights swept over the children. Reaching the stage, Shaun King looked down in amazement. The entire stage was surrounded by countless people, a sea of black. A feeling of dizziness and trembling legs came over him. Shaun King circulated his spiritual power and immediately dispelled this discomfort. Seeing the other children walking around the stage, Shaun King also naively followed the formation. Everyone noticed that among the children, there was one boy who was different from the others. The other children were all dressed in black and white, while this boy was wearing a blue and white costume. From such a distance, people couldn't see the boy's face clearly, but his figure exuded a nimble aura. Liam Lucas seized the opportunity and shouted into the microphone, "Stop!" All the children immediately stopped. Shaun King almost didn't react in time and bumped into the person in front. The audience below was amused by Shaun King's adorable figure and giggled. The screen switched back to Liam Lucas. He explained to everyone, "These little friends are the lucky children we selected. We specially reward each of them with 100,000 yuan and an exquisite gift." The sea of people buzzed with discussion. Liam Lucas looked at the stage, picked up the microphone, and quickly said, "East, west, south, north." More than 1,000 children, as if trained, quickly ran towards the back of the stage. In an instant, among the thousands of children on stage, only Shaun King was left. The audience below also looked at the stage stunned. Regaining his composure and feeling the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Shaun King lifted his cloak and tiptoed towards the back of the stage. However, when Shaun King was about to reach the back door of the stage, ouch! The door closed. Shaun King looked resentfully at the closed door. Shaun King was about to use his spiritual power to fly in, but he was afraid of being exposed in front of so many people. What should I do now? Where are my sisters? The audience in the stands looked at the boy with amusement. Some even covered their mouths and giggled. Liam Lucas picked up the microphone and said, "What's wrong, little darling? Did you get separated from the flock?" Shaun King turned around and nodded, then looked around, wanting to find his sisters in the crowd. Boom! Several stage spotlights, all shone on the small figure on the stage. At the same time, the large screen also showed Shaun King's image. Seeing the boy on the large screen, everyone was stunned. Thump, 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 thump. The square, with tens of thousands of people, temporarily fell silent. People could only hear their own heartbeats. Shaun King frowned, not knowing why so many people were staring at him like that. Wow, little immortal boy. Whose immortal boy is this? Someone below shouted, and the entire square also erupted in noisy chatter. I want a baby like that. Is that the boy who performed magic last time? I think I've seen this boy several times on the hot search list. On stage, Liam Lucas signaled everyone to be quiet, and at the same time its staff put headphones on Shaun King's ears. Then he gently asked, "Little brother, who are you?" Shaun King scratched a small hand and said to everyone in a childish voice, "My name is Shaun King. I just turned 6 today." Liam Lucas smiled, turned to the audience, and said, "Shaun King, do you all think he's cute?" The sea of people in the stands quickly shouted, "Cute." The sound was even louder than before. Just as Shaun King was thinking of a way to escape and find his family, Liam Lucas spoke again. "Actually, I'm not the only one here to celebrate today. Guess who else is here?" The sea of people erupted again. Could it be that those hot search topics are true? Are there other big stars and important figures coming? Lively background music played, and the back door of the stage opened again. Next, stars and important figures walked onto the stage one by one. The 4 little Wadan screen heartthrobs, making Shaun King's head spin. 7 stars gathered, but Shaun King felt a little dazed, feeling something was strange. Boom boom, 2 fireworks shot up from both sides of the stage, exploding into colorful shooting stars. The entire stage suddenly shook. Then, a clear female voice came from the speakers. Shaun King looked around at the 7 people, and found no one was singing. Creak! The empty space in the middle of the stage slowly opened up into a large round hole. Under everyone's gaze, a round platform slowly rose. Thick fog enveloped the round platform. Shaun King curiously looked at the round platform. In the fog, 2 figures with their backs to Shaun King appeared and disappeared. Suddenly, melodious piano music echoed throughout the square. A melodious singing voice also hummed along. Everyone was immersed in the melodious tune. Lara King used both hands to strike each piano key. The piano music gradually became cheerful. The audience in the stands closed their eyes, the corners of their mouths turning up with the melody. The piano stopped, the music ended, and the sea of people applauded and cheered loudly. The fog dissipated, and 2 beautiful figures gradually appeared. The screen also showed their images. "Hello everyone, I'm Tammy King." "Hello everyone, I'm Lara King." Shaun King tilted his head. Shaun King had heard Stacy King mention these 2 names. They seemed to be the names of his other 2 older sisters. The sea of people cheered wildly. Some were even so excited they fainted and were directly carried away on stretchers. Tammy King wore a white dress, while Lara King wore a green hanfu. Both had sweet and delicate appearances, but their temperaments were different. Tammy King was sweet and ethereal. Wearing this white dress, she looked like a fairy descended to the mortal world. Lara King was always elegant and demure, looking very gentle and graceful, exuding a ladylike beauty. Tammy King looked at her little brother in the distance, the corners of her mouth unable to suppress a smile. After a long while, Tammy King waved to all sides, then took a deep breath, opened her red lips, and said, "Friends, thank you all for coming to our family's birthday party." Lara King also politely thanked everyone. As if to confirm everyone's speculation, Tammy King smiled and said, "Today is my little brother's 6th birthday." Hearing this, the entire venue owed in surprise. "Wife Tammy, when did you get a little brother? Are you a fake fan?" 2 months ago, my wife Tammy announced she was giving up a new Hollywood movie for my wife's brother Joe. "When did he become your wife's brother?" Shaun King, standing in the corner, was a little suspicious. "Are these 2 my older sisters?" Tammy King looked around the sea of people, then looked toward Shaun King in the corner. Their eyes met. Shaun King was surprised to find that this older sister's gaze seemed very gentle. Little brother. Tammy King and Lara King simultaneously looked towards Shaun King in the corner. Shaun King touched his forehead and said in a childish voice, "Are you my older sister?" Tammy King slowly replied, "Of course. Shaun King, Lara and I are both your older sisters. Come here to me quickly." Hearing this, the entire venue owed. In surprise, unable to believe that the boy on stage was actually the biological younger brother of the two sisters. For a moment, everyone's brains were working at full capacity. Knowing the two were his older sisters, Shaun King happily ran to their side. The two also gently took Shaun King's hand. Liam Lucas finally had a chance to interject. He cleared his throat and said, "Everyone may be a little curious why Shaun King doesn't know Sister Tammy. Next, I will explain it to you." After speaking, the large screen on the stage suddenly went black, flickered once, and then began to play a video. In the video, Vivian King's gentle voice narrated Shaun King's life story in detail. From being accidentally lost just after birth, to being picked up and raised by an old junk collector, then Grandpa Joe's death, Shaun King having to wander and perform arts to make a living, and being bullied by an obese woman. The large screen continuously scrolled, replaying more than a dozen photos, including the tattered blanket under the bridge, Shaun King's money box, and photos of Shaun King begging on the street. Tammy King choked up several times while narrating, trying hard to hold back tears as she finished the story. After the video finished playing, the audience in the stands was already sobbing. At an age when he should have been happy and carefree, he had to live precariously in the dark corners of Mado. Men and women with tender hearts all shed tears, their hearts feeling like they were being stabbed by knives. Every time Tammy King watched the video, she couldn't help but shed tears. Seeing his sister cry, Shaun King was a little flustered. Shaun King gently tugged at his sister's sleeve and said, "Sister, don't be sad. Shaun King is very happy now. Besides, you also love Shaun King very much." "I'm very happy." After speaking, Shaun King smiled warmly and adorably, very healing. Because the two were wearing headphones, his voice was transmitted to the square through the speakers. "Boo-hoo-hoo. Shaun King is so pitiful. Shaun King is so good. I really can't stand it anymore. Everyone, my heart aches so much." Tammy King burst out laughing, patted Shaun King's head, and stood up. She wiped away her tears and shouted at everyone on stage, "Shaun King is Tammy King's little brother. He is the treasure of our King family. We will definitely do our best to protect him." This statement was full of meaning, like a promise to herself, and also like a warning. Lara King affectionately said to Shaun King, "Little brother, it's your birthday today. Guess what I prepared for you?" "Huh? This birthday party is prepared for me." Shaun King's naive words made everyone laugh through their tears. Tammy King also regained her composure and casually said, "Bring it up." From the back of the stage, several hostesses carried gift boxes onto the stage and came to Shaun King. Tammy King told Shaun King to open them himself. In an excited mood, Shaun King opened all the gift boxes in one go. The large screen showed close-ups of the gifts, once again making everyone gasp. In the first box was a platinum necklace, the pendant a pigeon egg-sized blue diamond. In the second box was an exquisite ring made of platinum, set with many small diamonds, sparkling under the lights. In the third box was a similar platinum bracelet. Everyone's eyes stung from the dazzling light. Shaun King's eyes also widened. Lara King was not to be outdone and said, "I've also prepared a very good gift for my little brother." After speaking, she gently said into the microphone, "Launch." Whoosh! At that moment, a firework shot into the sky. The firework exploded, forming the shape of a helicopter. Next, two black helicopters whirred and flew in from a distance, hovering in the air above the square. "These are the two helicopters Sister is giving you." Wow! This time, except for Tammy King and Lara King, everyone's jaws dropped. The audience in the stands no longer wanted to say the word envious. It had become cliché. Shaun King cheered happily. "Sister, is this the little plane you're giving me?" "That's right. From now on, they will be your private helicopters. Tonight, I'll have someone deliver them to the King family's landing pad." "Little brother," a clear female voice rang out. Smoke billowed from the back of the stage, and two slender figures slowly walked out. Seeing Vivian King and Stacy King also appear on stage, Shaun King grinned and called out, "Sisters." The audience in the stands felt their whole bodies go numb. This little boy actually had 4 older sisters. The 4 sisters looked at each other and smiled, surrounding Shaun King. Seeing this scene, everyone looked at each other as if they had discovered something incredible. Actually, in the past, the King sisters all developed independently and didn't often return home for reunions. They mostly communicated through group text messages. The outside world knew very little about the relationship between the sisters. The 4 daughters of the King family were devastatingly beautiful, with an overwhelming aura. Compared to them, the 4 little Hua Dan in the entertainment industry could only serve as a backdrop. Next, Vivian King pretended to be mysterious and said, "Shaun King, do you want my gift?" Shaun King nodded repeatedly. Vivian King bent down and poked her own cheek. Shaun King obediently stepped forward and gave her a peck. making the four girls giggle. Then, a pure gold statue of Shaun King was pushed onto the stage. Shaun King happily touched the statue, his heart blooming. Stacy King sneered coldly again. Just a gold statue? I thought your gift was very precious. After speaking, she took out a contract and a bank card from her bag. I don't have anything to give. I'll give 10% of my company's shares to Shaun King. This card has 10 billion. In the future, dividends will be automatically transferred to your card. I don't have anything else, just money. At this moment, Shaun King felt like he was dreaming. So happy. Tammy King narrowed her eyes and gently said, "Fireworks." Dozens of staff members behind the stage were already prepared. They immediately loaded and fired the fireworks. Brilliant fireworks lit up the entire night sky. The firelight, when it exploded, was like falling shooting stars. The entire motto could see this spectacular fireworks display. The twinkling stars became much dimmer at this moment. Many staff members distributed cakes and sweets in the sea of people. 7 stars came to support, taking turns to perform, giving everyone a visual feast. Finally, under Liam Lucas's guidance, Shaun King heard the loudest blessing. Shaun King, happy birthday to you. The shouts of tens of thousands of people echoed throughout Tianjin Square. Shaun King politely bowed his thanks, very well behaved. Then, everyone from the King family said goodbye to the sea of people and returned to the office building. The motto night sky was illuminated by fireworks. This performance would last all night. The media team beside the stage had already posted articles on Weibo. At midnight, the entire motto was still sparkling with light. Countless young couples were kissing under the romantic fireworks. King Family Manor. Shaun King's whole family returned to the villa. Back in the familiar living room, Tammy King and Laura King also gradually adapted to the feeling of being at home. 7th sister. Give Shaun King's phone to me. Tammy King took the phone from Shaun King's hand, then fiddled with it for a while. 5th sister, what are you doing? Laura King asked curiously. A moment later, Tammy King handed the phone back to Shaun King. Shaun King took the phone and looked at the screen to see what was different. Tammy King covered her mouth and laughed. I helped Shaun King open Weibo privileges. Now Shaun King is a second-tier star. Sure enough, Shaun King found he had an additional fan. Clicking on it, it was 5th sister. Shaun King pouted and complained. 5th sister is a liar. Stars have many fans. I only have one. That resentful look made everyone laugh out loud. Tammy King pinched Shaun King's cheek and gently said, then I'll perform magic for you. You kiss me once, okay? After negotiating, Shaun King kissed 5th sister on the face. Tammy King felt warm in her heart, and her cheek also tingled. Tammy King took out her phone and took a group photo with Shaun King, then started scrolling through the screen. Seeing the number of likes rapidly increasing, Tammy King slowly put away her phone and said, Shaun King, look at your number of fans again. Hearing his sister's reminder, Shaun King opened Weibo again. This time, the messages were 99 plus, and the number of fans had already exceeded 4 digits, and was still increasing rapidly. Shaun King curiously clicked on the messages. Birthday wishes flooded the screen. Receiving everyone's wishes, Shaun King's mood was also very happy. Jack King coughed, took out a submachine gun from his bag, startling his daughters. Blackie in the distance also yelped abnormally. Jack King laughed awkwardly. Dad really didn't know what to give, so I specially ordered a toy submachine gun. Hearing it was a toy submachine gun, the daughters breathed a sigh of relief. Sophia Chen also had a maid bring out a gift box. Inside was a set of overalls she had designed herself. Recently, she heard that overalls suited children very well. It was getting late. Everyone went back to their rooms to rest one after another. Returning to his room, Shaun King lay on the bed, tossing and turning. Today was the first time Shaun King had celebrated his birthday, and it was also Shaun King's happiest birthday. Thinking of his family's gifts, Shaun King smiled foolishly. Regaining his composure, Shaun King took out a bottle of youth-retaining pills. Tomorrow, Shaun King must take action and get everyone to drink the youth-retaining pills.